Let's talk some game stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do at some point. I don't know if it's this podcast. I would like to go workout by workout through the games and evaluate the individual workouts for like challenge them against the ideology of CrossFit, testing accuracy, how they were filmed. But I think that...
Why do you want to do that?
I think it would just be interesting. I think talking about what fitness testing is, how it's displayed to camera, how we build an audience, I think those are really important dialogues to have. And this year, I think we made a huge step forward in terms of viewability of a lot of the tests.
Would you say it's because of the tests or just the ESPN component?
I think some of it was the tests.
Yeah. I do too.
Yeah.
But I was just interested because I talked to someone the other day and they said they still didn't like the test as far as like viewership. But in my mind, and this is just like first glance, the ones that I watch, I'm like, this is way more entertaining than what we had last year.
Yeah, way better. I think if I were to, like, I'd give the games people a thumbs up, knowing that there are...
No, that was 2 thumbs.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up if you're watching the video.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things about the whole CrossFit ecosystem that I continually disagree with and that we still see that are frustrating. But knowing a bit more about the economics of it, how difficult the thing is and how much resources it takes to put a show on like that, and having tried to dig in behind the scenes to understand why these are problems, to know that they solved for a decent amount of them while also limiting resources and almost making the business dynamics make more sense. I left being like, okay, cool. Like I feel much more happy and content about the way things are going forward. There are still major issues, but I think that could be a productive conversation just to put out there, because I think competition's out there, and knowing that there are going to be some big changes that come out to the season, I think people should be talking about just what do we do moving forward in terms of if you're putting your own competition on, or you're trying to get high-level athletes to them, or you're trying to put on a competition that somebody who's displaying it might want to watch, then we need to start thinking outside the box of testing them towards just CrossFit's ideology. It needs to be like, well, let's make a show, which becomes a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm going to throw the audience off a little bit because I'm going to give you a story real quick, but this one, I'll tie it back in, I promise.
How long is it?
So
Should I take a comfortable seat?
Yeah, take a nap. So we're getting a new outlet in our garage because we need something for a 220 outlet. And so we had a guy come in today, and he looks at our panel, and he's like, oh, I love these panel boxes. And I was like, okay, why? He's like, these are simplified panel boxes that you can retrofit to anything that you want. And he's like, everyone should do this. They're the cheapest box to get. You basically can put any outlet into it, any breaker that you want to into it. And they're $20. And I was like, well, how much is the normal box? $150, and you have to buy a new one every single time you want to retrofit it. And that makes me think of kind of the games in this way. Why not just simplify the test first? Like the easiest problem. So instead of going and buying a new box, like let's just get the simplest one, the cheap one. What I mean by that is put some really easy tests like Helena in that are fun to watch. They're racing, and the athletes every single time are going after it. They're running fast. They're doing the bar muscle ups. They're doing the dumbbell snatch. And then there's a run to the finish where even if the filming, the production, the people that are commentating do a bad job, it's still fun to watch.
Yeah.
So instead of talking about all the resources, like I get that there's some challenges there, but the first step in my mind, and we've talked about this a lot, is like make the test more enjoyable, more viewer friendly, and highlight the athletes, and then all of a sudden everything else will fall into place, just like that nice box that we have at our house.
Yeah, I mean, I think relative to what last year was, I feel like that's why I gave it a 2 thumbs up, is because I feel like there was a clear move in that direction of everything that was displayed on TV seemed to be relatively exciting in terms of the race dynamic.
Yeah,
I don't think
y'all watch ESPN.
Yeah, I intentionally went back and watched some of it because I wanted to see if it was more viewer friendly. And that
so this is actually interesting. So you were a viewer at home this week. You didn't go to Madison.
Nope.
You were a coach. I was media.
I did watch one of my favorite moments of the games on ESPN live broadcast. The Helena females. So the guys went, and the way they had it set up for the broadcast, heat 3 of guys went, and then heats 1 through 4 of girls went, and then heat 4 of guys went. So Noah was in the last guys heat, and I've been pulling long days for a long time in a row. So Noah went, and I went home to catch Alexis finishing. It just also happened to be like that was one of my favorite watching an athlete moments, watching Alexis come back in that workout. But that just made the broadcast cool to watch for me.
And how was the broadcast? Like,
I thought they did an awesome job. The commentators did a really good job for the most part. But I guess my point would be, even if they like just completely bombed watching the event, for someone even that doesn't know CrossFit, you're watching them run fast. You're watching them do something where they're flipping over the bar. Yeah. They're running to a dumbbell. Then they're racing at the end. And let's say even if it weren't Alexis, everyone was still racing. So Alexis went past, but then there's 3 or 4 other girls, and that makes a really fun event for a viewer.
Yeah, there was no dead time. Like I know the semifinal workout with the rope climbs where they're just sitting there. Like those types of workouts, I do think if you're trying to create a test of fitness, need to be in there. But they really do suck to watch and suck to broadcast. So I think the whole sport needs to think about a re-architecture of, excuse me, when do you put those tests in? Why? How do you display them? Can you do them earlier in the week and then post-production them before the actual cool ones come out? I know the athletes have a lot of say in this process, but I don't think they should be the primary voice in it. And I don't know if just us as coaches should either. I think we need like real professional broadcast people to discuss with the athletes and coaches to really kind of come together and say, okay, well, we have some issues with trying to blend the ideology of CrossFit with testing, with broadcasting. And if we're going to create a sport, I feel like the testing the ideology one has to kind of get pushed under the rug or be a smaller component of it. And it needs to be more, how do we make it fun to watch?
Well, I mean, even the big sports are always adapting to be more viewer friendly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Baseball has done a great job of that this year. And Chris, I know you and I are huge fans of baseball, but to be fair to what they've done, they basically shortened the games and made them much more entertaining. The commercial breaks are quick and they get back to it. And there's like, it seems like it's almost live ball more often instead of that just sitting there and waiting for pitches because they have a clock, and it just makes it more enjoyable to watch. And the viewership has gone up. It used to be baseball was just like regional fans, where it's just like if you live in the Atlanta market, you're watching the Braves and that's kind of it, right? Now, if you look at the numbers, they're getting more national fans watching regional games. And I think that's just a testament because they have changed it to be more viewer friendly and maybe not just in line with just like, oh, this is how we play baseball.
Did y'all know anybody who saw it from ESPN that wasn't planning to see it?
I just asked that wasn't planning on seeing it.
You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, my dad and my sister text me, A, I didn't know that my dad knew I existed. But B, I didn't know that they knew Alexis was out there and that she was related with us. And they both texted was like, is that your girl who just won? I was like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah. There was a meeting after the games by the PFAA, which is like the athletes association that's kind of forming. And Don Fall, who's the CEO of CrossFit, came up and spoke at that meeting. And he said in his meeting, I took notes down, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And I don't think this is confidential information because there were a bunch of people there, but that it was 5.5 million people watched the numbers were still coming in, but of the data that they took, 4.5 million were non-CrossFit new eyeballs.
I wonder how they could measure that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I know that those algorithms of people that are on Instagram and Facebook and like the cookies and things that you accept do give a lot of customer data. So maybe it is possible. I find it hard to believe that they would have that data that segmented the day after competition. But I know that from that discussion, that is one of their key. He was calling it his North Star for running the company, was how many new eyeballs do we get on the sport?
And I think that's a great North Star to have.
Yeah, it makes sense for sure. I don't know if it is I don't know if I would agree. I'd have to really think about, is this the most important thing to make sure the sport is successful is eyeballs on? But maybe it is. Maybe it does come down to that, because if you get eyeballs on, you get advertising revenue, then you have the revenue to make the changes you want.
I would say it has to be one of the top 2 or 3.
Yeah, for sure.
In my small mind. I would say it's probably the most important because that's what other sports measure their success off of. You get more eyeballs, you get more money, and a lot of that's just TV deals, right? Like the NFL gets billions of dollars of TV deals, and that's how they run their sport.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
This is just like anecdotal, right? But each year after the games, when they do the reruns, I've watched it with family members. So like I told this story, I think last year.
Are those just reruns of the live feed, or are those doctored up to be?
Yeah, they are doctored up.
Okay.
This year I haven't seen them, but the one we watched last year was. They had more
context and stuff that you can't do.
They had like a preview of like what was going on in the week and stuff like that. Yeah. The one we watched this year was live because I was here. But the last 2 years we watched the reruns, and last year was the crossover. Yeah. The year before was the freestanding handstand push-up. And I told this story, right? Like my sister-in-law, who doesn't know CrossFit, but she was a gymnast, is watching this, and she's like, there's no way these are the best in the world doing freestanding handstand push-ups. And the same thing last year is like, why are they tripping on the jump rope? And now watching it this year live, everyone was watching Helena and was amazed at how fast they went. So I guess that all goes back to that analogy I was saying earlier of like, just make it simple first. Yeah. And then you can kind of put those breakers in the same way we're like, put the fun workouts in, and then the people will watch, and then we can figure out all the other stuff surrounding that.
Yeah.
So that's the stream. Real quick, Max, how was the professionalism this year compared to last year? Behind the scenes.
What do you
as a
mean by
coach?
professionalism?
Like, I mean, I feel like on this podcast, we've always had lots of, positive or negative things to say about it. So how was it this year behind the scenes? Did it feel organized in a good way?
Yeah, I think it felt organized. I still think there are some things that I just really disagree with in terms of like when things are briefed, how quickly they're briefed. There's ambiguity in movement standards where athletes don't fully understand the standard. One example right off the top of my head is on the sprint workout that was with the intervals. There was like the box jump over and the rowing and the burpee box jump over. The standard of getting over the high box was very ambiguous. And Chandler had a strategy he was asking about where he would kind of jump over and baseball slide his feet underneath him. Somebody was saying, what happens if you put your knees on and swivel them over and then your off foot goes over the side of the box? They were trying to make sure that nobody's feet drug along the side and went underneath. So they said if your foot, meaning your toe, was underneath the top of the box, but your shin was above and you were rotating around, that was okay. And a lot of
that's going to take 20 minutes for my brain to understand.
Yeah, well, no one understood it really.
Say it again.
So there's the top of the box.
Yeah.
They were trying to make sure when you jumped up on the box that one leg couldn't swing down and out to the side of it.
Got it.
But if your knee is bent and you swivel around, your toe sticks down like your shin
over
is
the
like
edge
this.
of the box.
Yeah, your toe is basically over the edge of the box swinging around. So athletes were like really struggling to.
Why do they give themselves these headaches?
Well, that's what, like, we were standing on the side and they were like going from Bosman to the head judge to Chuck, going back and forth. You could tell even the people giving the brief were frustrated because they were like, how are the athletes not getting it? Or they thought it was clear, but it wasn't. And there were like 10 coaches on the side. Like, why didn't they just make it that both your feet have to touch the top of the box? Like, you literally just take away all the ambiguity. Athletes then can build their strategy around a clear standard. So things like that.
Hold on, before we go further.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Give me we gave the 2 thumbs up for the media thing. What overall, just give me your feelings and then let's elaborate.
Okay. Professionalism, I'd say, I don't know. I don't know if I felt as much of a thumbs up positive vibes, if I'm being honest. And part of that is
8 out of 10?
Yeah.
6 out of 10? 7 out of 10? Come on.
I'd say
put a number on it.
All right. I'd say
so we know where your head's at to contextualize everything you're about to say.
I'd say 6 to 7 out of 10 in terms of professionalism. And part of that is that I think that this sport is built on secrecy, right? Like, it's unknown and unknowable. And there is a continual, we have continued to put out the idea that we think that needs to go away. Have y'all heard anyone else
jumping on this? Or is it just us?
Well, at the PFA meeting, they brought it up. And they were saying, like, hey, if we need to enforce standards on, like, we want to go and compete X number of times per year, we need to make sure that we're not walking into a battleground and doing 15 workouts over the course of 3 days. Like, there needs to be tiers and measurables. And I was like, ooh, that sounds really much like you want to know what you're doing, even if it's a little unknown. So I think it's getting there slowly and people are starting to realize. But I can't wrap my head around, there is just massive conflicts of interest if you have training organizations that are part of the business dynamics of CrossFit, and then you maintain the unknown and unknowable.
What do you mean?
Because, well, like, hard work pays off, proven.
Oh, you mean being title sponsors or whatever?
Yeah, and I get it. And I'm not like, I guess I am a little bit upset. I never had an opportunity to be one of those people or get our media in the back. And maybe I wouldn't have wanted to, knowing kind of what you get. But if there's information, even if you're just allowed access into places that other people aren't allowed, you can see what equipment is in here. And you can start making deductions that allow you to prepare your athletes better. And a couple days more preparation, like, oh, you happen to walk by, demo team's over there. They just did a back roll to support. Ooh, I could just text my athletes and be like, hey, check, back roll to support might be coming out. I saw the demo team doing it. Do it. Like, you can sign an NDA and you can have these things that save face, but in practical application, it's not happening and people are getting information. I heard information again that got parroted down. I won't say like what coaching organization or who it was, but somebody was like, oh, I heard from X person that there is definitely not going to be swimming this year because of budget cuts and blah, blah, blah. And that was on Sunday. So I'm like, all right, well, if people know that,
Hold on, the Sunday before the games.
Sunday before the games, and I'm like, well, that is the type of shit that I just feel like is unprofessional.
Yeah, assume you knew that 3 months out and you just stopped swimming because we spent a lot of time swimming
and
then
did other
I
stuff.
mean, the week before the games, I was out there filming Lexus and
Yeah.
the full 2 swim
Right.
workouts.
Yeah. So those are the types of things that I can't get over are being unprofessional. I'm like, this is a aspect of the sport that just has to go, because otherwise then you can essentially pay for a competitive advantage, which then does not make a level playing field at all. So I was really reconciling
Well,
that,
even if it's not
that
nefarious,
emotion.
even if it's all very just, happenstance, it still sucks.
Yeah.
I don't think it is nefarious. Do you?
Yeah. I don't think it's nefarious at all. And part of it
I
is
just wanted
just,
to illuminate that. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's all
Right.
just fun and games, it still sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's like public hate and whatever and comments on Instagram, but like I don't hold anything against the organizations that got that preferential treatment. You're
Yeah,
talking about,
ideally, you want those people there. The freaking Mount Rushmores of the sport.
Yeah.
Let's have their
Totally.
businesses.
and not only their businesses, but they bring fans to come
Yeah.
and watch, even if they're not part of it. So
Yep.
like, I get that, but then just make it professional, make them sponsors, make it clear what access of information is coming out, who gets the information, when.
How do you ever do that without standardizing the sport? It couldn't be unknown and unknowable.
Maybe these are just growing pains for being this small.
Yeah,
right
maybe.
now.
Yeah, maybe. So that was definitely the part of my soul spirit that was just, it almost feels like, God, why is this still happening? And I was really disappointed by it.
We've asked you this before, but what would you say that they would say to that? You think are they
Yeah,
being
I want to actually steel man that side because
Yeah,
I want to be
You mean break down my argument?
break down your
Go ahead.
yeah, or just say what coming from them, like, because I do watching this happen at semifinals, several semifinals over the last couple of years where the same thing happens. Like you were there at the what did they call the Southeast one this year? Whatever it was.
East.
The East. The East, yeah. I can't even remember. My brain's like, what? So it changes every year. But how many questions do we have? Like so many. So I think part of that process is they do write all of these questions down. I'm sure they're thinking about what are the athletes going to ask? How are they going to ask them? What's the actual standard? How can we make this clear? But then there were some questions from athletes that blew me away. I'm like, how could they ask that? But then once they ask it, you do open the floodgates up to more interpretation to some of those workouts or those movement standards, especially with some of the things that happened at semifinals. So I think, to be fair, they are preparing somewhat well. They have in their mind, like, these are clear standards, and then they get blown up because we have all of these crazy questions from athletes that are trying to find a way to kind of like, skim off the top a little bit. How can I cheat this rep a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of an athlete's job to figure out the most efficient, fastest way. And I feel like sometimes people are frustrated in those meetings because people are asking about all of the nuanced detail, but I think that's kind of an athlete's job. And part of my insistence that we get rid of the unknown and unknowable and say, okay, 2 weeks out, you're going to get a full digital brief structure.
Yeah.
And maybe there's certain things that you keep secret. Maybe you say, okay, it's a clean ladder, but we're not going to give you the weights, and we're going to announce that, because some of that is anticipation and build up and part of making the show. So I get there's more to it than that. But if you could do that and say, like, all right, a week out from the games, every athlete in the individual field is going to get a full briefing of all of the workouts digitally, full walkthrough, digital rendering, movement standards. Judges are going to get to study it. Then when you come in and you do your brief and walk through it, all of it can be nuanced, detailed questioning between judges and athletes, where they're just answering questions about the standards of how things are doing with a general assumption that you understand the flow. You know where you're going, where the finish lines are. I think if you did something like that and you had clear communication, clear standards, you remove some of the bull crap about preferential treatment or being a part of an inside circle and an outside circle, and you give the athletes a little bit of time to actually prepare and refine, which makes then races more exciting, because like
that's the main thing.
Yeah, but that's
viewership.
And that's the thing. Like, they got the idea that bar pullovers were going to be in the test a couple days early. By the time they came out, almost everybody in the field did it well. Right. I bet you if you looked at people's on Tuesday when they got the information, they weren't looking so good. But it doesn't take that long for an athlete of that caliber to figure out an efficient strategy, especially if there's a time pressure that, like, well, you better have this shit figured out by Friday. So those types of professionalism things, I feel like I'll continue to just vocalize and hope that more athletes hear that and more athletes demand change on that, because I also just, like, it kind of sucks if you're going, like, okay, you're going until 7 p.m. and then you got to be up at a 7 o'clock briefing where you're going to walk through some really basic stuffs about going here.
Fudge that.
Yeah, it just, I think would
That's
be
a waste of their time.
Yeah, I think you could do it all in day one. You could say,
and also
right,
think about the judges. It's, you were just walking around. I was just filming people.
Yeah.
Those are long days,
Yeah.
and I got to imagine it's long days for the judges and everyone else. And so if you're trying to get these standards and learn them on the fly, and you're on day 3 and you're exhausted, it's like, I don't know, it's not
so
ideal.
I don't, and like another example, the bike. It was a 40-minute AMRAP. It was talked about like a 40-minute AMRAP, but not a single person in the field did a 40-minute AMRAP.
Right.
I'm like, you can't call it something and it not be that.
I know.
Or the
That was strange.
The 5K was 4.55K. Just in case, I took screenshots of multiple people's GPS watches, all who ran the exact thing on game day, so you couldn't say, oh, it was just a random GPS watch. To me, like, I got multiple messages from people that I know in just the normal strength and conditioning community that are like, these times are crazy. That's ridiculous. And I was like, trust me, it's not accurate. But then that makes our community look unprofessional. It's like, oh, we're testing a 5K. We're making a global leaderboard about the 5K. But now our best people in the world are all running a 4.55.
I think that was the worst part, is then inviting everyone else to do a 5K, and those times don't compare.
And it could have just said run an
or it's
undisclosed.
the most genius thing ever, because now you have this big debate to talk about.
Maybe, yeah.
I
And
don't
you
know.
make
Not
your
if you're
athletes
trying to
look
be a professional
faster.
sport.
Yeah, and you make your athletes look faster.
Everyone knows that they're not that fast, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's not hating on them, but
Yeah.
those times are not possible right now in the sport.
Yeah, so like those unprofessionalism things, I feel like take my 2 thumbs up about like testing and whatever, and it's like starts to get like, oh God,
Well, so
like, why are we doing this?
Here's the actual, what I would say is steel manning the argument, though, and this is very simple, but this is what I've heard anytime I've asked.
For the people who don't know
CrossFit,
what steel man means.
Basically just saying that this is the reason why they say that they're doing it the way that they are. Like, this is my argument.
This is how they
on
would
this
say
side.
it.
Yeah. CrossFit would not be CrossFit without the unknown and unknowable. So
Yeah.
we're going to continue to keep it that way. And if you have questions about it, it is what we say.
Yeah.
I know that seems really silly, but that's the answer that we get every single time we have conversations with people.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but
Well,
every test becomes known and unknowable at some point. Whether that's 5 minutes
Known and
before the
knowable.
first heat goes.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
Did you say that wrong, or did I hear it wrong? Anyway, I got you. Sorry.
Yeah.
continue.
Go ahead. Did you have a thought?
No, it's just
He was
you said
correcting
it
you.
wrong.
Known
Oh.
and knowable.
Did I say known and knowable? I did, right?
He said known and unknowable.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Which is true, because they also still they don't know this judging standard.
Yeah.
And
Well-
you just said it's the headaches that you set yourself up for.
Yeah.
It's like
It's not that I don't. I mean, I love the fact that the sport changes every single test. I actually like that. The thing I don't like is that you find out the second before you're about to do it, or the day before you're about to do it. And some of the time, like, everybody brainstorming has shitty ideas. Even if you have the best team in the world and you brainstorm, you can get things wrong. And like, we've learned that in our business many times. Like, we think things through, and there's just unforeseen things. The strength of the CrossFit community at the CrossFit Games is all majority of that talent exists outside of CrossFit, right? Like, the training plan coaches and the comp train coaches and the mayhem coaches and the TTT coaches, none of those people are employed by CrossFit. And none of the athletes are employed by CrossFit. But if we had a week to dissect the standards and all of the stuff, we could come back with more productive things on day one, get clarifications, have the athletes test them, stress test the ideas, and make sure that there's a good show without frustrations or lack of clarity. Now, that being said about the unprofessionalism, I think this year was better. There were less things that were ambiguous. Even if you look at the types of tests, it was very clear, like,
I agree.
This thing gets over the line. This, like, there weren't as many tests where depth standards or movement standards were new, or if they were doing something they had never done before. So I think the testing can start to eliminate that in some capacity, but I think also the format of communication is going to be the next thing that, like, we have to change. And also that time could be better used for, like, press conferences, right? Like, if you had, like, okay, top 10 in the field, men and women, instead of showing up to a 7 a.m. brief, they're showing up to a 7 a.m. press conference that then people from the previous day can ask them questions and get the story. And here's the most important, like,
and allow new viewers to fall in love with an athlete. Like,
people.
I really
That's
like
all
that
you need,
person.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And that actually happened with Alexis. There were some people, like I said, watching it at our house, and they were like, man, she seems so sweet and likable, and, she's young and, like, athletic. And that kind of those people then become fans of the sport, and they just kind of maybe slowly follow it, and then they go into a gym, they start doing CrossFit, and all of a sudden now they're addicted like all of us are to the sport.
Yeah. So that's my professionalism.
Real quick, though, to tie a bow on that, give us exactly, because you kind of started talking about this. Let's say you are CrossFit and those were the workouts. How are you delivering that information if you want to deliver it like a month out? You're doing like a full video that you send to every athlete? Like, give us a rundown of how you would do it.
I mean, they've done it before at competitions. I think with semifinals, there's been digital briefs. They take a rendering of the floor, and then they just show, here's the start line. They draw with arrows and lines. This is where you're going to go. This is where the flow is. This is where it's going to be set. This is where you're going to have to move the pieces. This is basically workout start to finish. Then each movement would be broken down per movement based on standard, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. My recommendation would be to do that at speed with world-class athletes, so you could see, here's the gray line, here's where you don't want to play the gray line. Because a lot of times the CrossFit argument will be like, if it's even close, you're wrong. And I'm like, all right, but that's not how it actually happens, because there's people that have really close reps that get no reps, and people that have really close reps that get reps. And
we saw that with the dumbbell snatches in Helena.
Yeah, and if you're doing air squats with like plenty of time and pausing at the bottom, like you can definitely get to the right side of it. Right. But if you're saying you're doing wall balls or freaking sandbag squats with 200 pounds on your head that you've never really had those positions to practice them and to feel them, a lot of times people are just going to ride the line to go for speed, and you might get a couple no reps, but the point is to make sure that they're not like egregious or unfair from person to person. So I think if you did all of that in one big digital brief for each workout, like maybe a Google Drive file
And how far out are you sending that to athletes? If it's the games or semifinals?
I mean, I think at a minimum it should come out a week in advance.
Okay.
And here's where I know that this would be a challenge, is that I heard that the tests are constantly changing even at the games. So you would have to be like really fixed on your test.
Is that cool or uncool?
Yeah, that was my question. Like,
is it cool that they change on the fly? Like, can we make a case for that being kind of cool that they're...
I would make a change when I have to make a change on the fly out here. I would say that it's because I was unprepared. If I know that a camp is coming up and I know the people that are coming in, we test the workouts ahead of time, we get time caps, and you have to make firm decisions like, okay, this is good and we like this how it is. You give yourself that lag time. Generally, that just allows you to it's nice to have that type of creative freedom, but I think it makes it harder for broadcasting, because then they don't know the workouts. It makes it harder to talk about the workout because you haven't seen anybody do it. I think you potentially could release full demos of the actual workouts.
I would love that.
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that should definitely happen. I've always said that the biggest celebrity in the sport is the workout.
Yeah.
Like, no one loves we need people to fall in love with the athlete, but people love reading the workout.
Yeah. And then maybe doing it beforehand, normal athletes in the gym doing it.
Well, that's another professionalism thing. Like, there was a team workout where every team in the field got capped. And I'm like, who tested it? Like, did you have...
Well, this also happened to individuals. There were a couple where, maybe only 10 females out of 40 finished, like, the skill test. I get some of that.
It wasn't zero, though.
It wasn't zero.
Like, I could say, like, okay, well, you picked a purposefully aggressive time cap because you wanted to separate. Maybe you want to play mind games, so you make an argument for it. But nobody finishes. Yeah. I think that just means you picked the wrong time cap, because why wouldn't you want people finishing? Why would you want to display a workout on live stream where you're like, oh, well, no one here is good enough to do what we asked them to do? Like, it just, to me, doesn't really seem fair to display high-level athletes and explain how impressive it is that they did what they did.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's say a week out and you're giving full briefs. If there's 12 workouts in the weekend, you're having
a full demo. Here's the time cap. Like, I think just
everything.
I think that would be the best way to do it.
I agree.
Think
some sort of idea.
Yeah. I mean, it just, as a starting point, like, again, it's just an idea, but I do think that it needs to end, because to me, it causes more problems than it solves. Because the problems that it solves, you would say, is it keeps the integrity of CrossFit being unknown and unknowable. It allows them to get time to get into the venue and into the arena to really make sure they stress test everything. So there's some benefit to it.
I got a question.
Oh, we have a question. We have a hand raised in the crowd.
My question is, hey guys, do you feel like we've beaten a dead horse and should move on to a different topic?
I do.
All right, nice. What did y'all think about the Castro being back this year?
It was interesting. I don't know if I have anything one way or the other. I haven't really had any close interactions with him throughout my whole career in CrossFit. I've never really been like, I think during the 2020 games, I went out to a dinner that he was out, but I didn't really like interact with him that much. But one thing I will say
Don't make me tickle you. What do you think? Come on.
Well, I think the fans liked that he was back.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
That's what I saw.
And from an entertainment perspective, like I feel like if you have the sport on one side, but then you have this drama that I've been watching for the last 13, 12 years of my life, it's like, hell yeah, he's back. Like,
yeah. I will say he came out, so all of the briefings he wasn't really a part of. It was mostly Chuck, Boz doing the brief, and they were very technical. Like, you're coming in, this is a workout, this is what you're doing, and it was pragmatic, and we got all the information. Aside from a couple, like the bike thing was very unclear. Even 3, 2, 1, go, and I was coaching people, I was very unclear as to like what happens after 40 minutes. If you're behind the line and you go through, are you done? Are you just done wherever you are? You have to finish the lap no matter what, but it would be in your best interest to then push the pace to get past the line so you can then pass all those other people. I didn't like that type of stuff, but from a delivering the information perspective, it all came out good. Castro came out during the final day and he announced the finale in the Coliseum. And there was a clear difference in that, like, oh, he is theatrical. Like he made the announcement of this more exciting. He brought a twist out. He changed the workout. And I did have to like almost nod my cap to say like, all right, I get why you are an important component of doing this at a showmanship level. Maybe not from a, like he, as one person, he's not going to change the whole show. Like there's leadership and power and other people's opinions and whatever. But I would say that he definitely makes a huge impact in fan experience of our community, because a lot of people in our community are tied to his face, his way of doing things, the drama that he's caused, the like, I don't give a fuck
or bad.
attitude.
If you hate it, it's good. If you love it, it's good.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that I just saw a bunch of people commenting about him, and some were bad and some were good, but it is, to your point, Chris, always there's just more eyes talking or more people talking about the sport. The one thing I noticed is like the press conferences were very lively when he was there. I don't know if you guys saw any of those, but
I was there for one with Alexis.
Yeah, I mean, and he's just like, you know, he's joking and laughing, and I guess kind of to what you were saying, it's just like it's charismatic as opposed to just like very bland answers that you get sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And
man ended by saying, "Let me give this kid my hat." I was like, "Were you there for the Alexis one?"
No.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, love him or hate him, it's good times.
Yeah,
he gave someone a hat, or I didn't see that.
He just got it. It was just basically my point is there's just good theatrics.
Oh yeah, he's going. What do you think about the? You know, we talked about the viewership side, but like if you're looking at the test as a whole, this is kind of my one knock.
Hold on, if we do the test as a whole, then it won't be another podcast.
I mean, we don't need to draw this out for years.
You don't have to go test by test. I just want kind of big picture, and if you want to talk about a few of them, but it just seemed like this year was very much different than the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It was extremely different than what we saw at semifinals, which I think is an okay thing. There were so many bottlenecks, and it was very slow and not fun to watch that we needed some fast racing tests. But there was a ton of upper body pulling, not a lot of pressing this year for the first time that we've seen. And really, there wasn't a lot of squatting. And there was just a bunch of different kind of odd things that were fit into workouts.
I feel like there were more squatting than lower body pulling. There was a wall balls.
So I actually have some numbers here.
Yeah.
So the squatting was 100 wall balls, then you had the 50 sandbag squats, and then you had the 54 thrusters. So those were the 3 squatting tests. The pulling test, you had the 20 pig flips, 36 cleans, 63 dumbbell snatches, and then the 15 sandbags that you had.
Hold on, 36 cleans was what? The
dumbbell clean and jerks. Yeah, just call that like
kettlebell?
A hinge. Yeah, the kettlebell and jerk.
Okay.
But then if you look at the pulling, you had 50 chest to bar, 6 legless, 36 bar muscle up, 35 ring muscle up, 8 sled pulls, which was the hand over hand, which is probably like 10 pulls each time, so 80 pulls, which is pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
And then the 16 pullovers, which still everyone was kind of kipping, but that's pretty still aggressive.
Pulling.
It's like a front lever.
Grip heavy.
Yeah. And then the ski erg on the ski erg workout.
Yeah.
And I would still say like even the toe to bar after doing chest to bar, doing 100 toe to bar in that workout, that's still a form of kind of like lat contraction. So there was just a lot of upper body pulling compared to some of the other stuff we saw.
And what does that make you think?
I'm not sure. Like that's why I wanted Max's feedback or thoughts on that. If you thought it's like overly excessive, or hey, look, sometimes we just bias one thing, because in the past they've had 500 squat contractions.
Yeah. I'm a purist, a CrossFit purist. So I feel like if you're going to call it a test of fitness, if you're going to call it a test of fitness, then you got to test fitness comprehensively and broadly. Okay. And I think it should start in a cohesive way, because they've said that it's supposed to be a cohesive way from open through quarterfinals, through semifinals, through the games. The downside of that, and the reality that I've come to over the last year and a half, is that if you try to make things pure in terms of testing fitness, you will probably make them boring in terms of watchability and viewability.
Right.
So I think that they made a huge step in the right direction in terms of viewability. I think this is in line with where they've always been from an accuracy of testing standpoint. There's very few tests that are super quick. The strength test this year, I was actually super impressed with how close to PRs people hit. Some people actually did hit PRs, I think.
Really?
Yeah. But I think most people are lifting way less in that format than if you give them one more lift and actually make it a weightlifting test. So like strength isn't super comprehensively tested. The 40-minute bike ride maybe is an endurance test that is kind of valid and accurate, but it's also on an implement that is not often trained at the highest level by a lot of these people because it hasn't come out that much.
I would guess that was probably more like leg stamina too.
Are you going to say something about the pooling right now, or did you switch gears?
Did I switch gears?
He's doing his broad. Look, we're painting with broad brushes right now.
I was just making sure if I was like following a thread or not.
Yeah. Well, the pulling is the discussing.
Hold on, let me ask you this: do you have a problem with over biasing one movement or one pattern?
I don't have a problem with it. I just think that it's dictating who's going to win.
Right. So like, you're basically biasing it to like these certain people that are really good at this.
Well, let me be clear with the upper body pulling, because I don't want this to be controversial at all.
Now we're moving and grooving, boys. Let's go.
I want Laura. I am super happy that Laura Horvath.
She's amazing.
She's been an awesome athlete, multiple times games podium. But if she has this history of having a singular movement or a movement style that isn't as good as another one, and she's got a huge climbing,
which one's that?
With upper body pressing, or like
just like it would be a strict variation.
A strict variation of a handstand push-up, and she's been working on it. They post videos of her being. I don't know her at all, so I don't want to offend her in doing it. But if you go through a whole testing structure of the fittest test on earth, and somebody didn't get tested on that, then I'm guessing if they do their evaluation, you might look at it and be like, ooh, I got like kind of lucky with the tests and the draw that came out that this one thing didn't get pulled up. I think that in order to fix that, you have to standardize to say every test of the CrossFit Games will at the minimum include X. And like whether it's broken down by movement pattern, time domain, like I think there needs to be some standardized structure to avoid that in the future. I think the reason that won't happen, at least right away, is the primary focus right now is to get eyes on. And if you do a max vertical, or you do one set AMRAP unbroken strict handstand push-ups, or you do a 500-meter row for time, and it's just that in and of itself, that is a beautiful test of fitness. It's probably actually a better test of fitness than all the CrossFit shit that you do where you mix it all together, but it's not a fun sport to watch.
A 500-meter row would be fun.
Maybe.
That would be fun.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know where anyone is.
True.
Then you got to have a screen. Like
yeah.
Then it becomes harder to produce, and it's happening so quickly that the announcers don't have any time to say anything. So pragmatically, I understand that my idealism is just, it's not realistic to do. So when I see tests where I'm like, this was not balanced, I don't get mad. I'm not like, well, it should be balanced. I'm just like, we've always been doing it in an unbalanced way.
Sure.
Like we went through a whole regional where there wasn't a barbell because Castro decided that people were too heavily training in barbells. So we're going to switch it up. Which is like, okay, well, this is what we're doing. Like, this is what we're subjecting ourselves to. That means you got to get your athletes really good at just dealing with whatever the hell comes out.
Yeah. To be fair to him, it did shift the sport, and people got really good at dumbbells, and they were still good at the barbell.
And so Broke made some more money.
Yeah, that is true. But I think that
we got other stuff, guys.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and all the other stuff that they've sold.
Yeah.
It just, that is the cool part to me. Like, I complained then. I was like, it would have been way better if they just made the test well-rounded back in 2017 or whenever that was. But it's really cool to see the athletes like thrive. They're so resilient that they just overcome whatever's thrown at them and they continue to get better.
So are they going to clip that quote of you right now out and say, well, then shut your mouth for everything moving forward? Because if every time
you can say, hey, these are good things, good outcomes with having a bad solution to a problem. Like the resilient people overcome any situation, and these athletes are just really resilient. But there's probably a smoother way to do things and better tests that will allow them to continue to push forward, be resilient, but also have, again, good tests.
Yeah, and also I don't think you can cherry pick the good aspects of it, because last year Bosman went and kind of basically redrew the whole format of the games. He came up with his interpretation. It was very different. People didn't like it. People complained. But I can sure as hell tell you that the people that we coached, that I got to saw train in person, became much more coordinated and much more skilled at a variety of other things as a result of that pressure to do it. So I think that there needs to be some clarity as to how do you make those changes in a way that reflects what the sport's trying to do long term. And if it's just about creating eyeballs, which they said is their North Star, then I think we can kiss the idea of balanced testing goodbye. Like, it's just not going to be part of the discussion.
I think you can do both. I think you can make fun tests that maybe
I think you can, but they said that's not their North Star. So that's like, if your North Star was, we want to get more eyeballs on while also preserving the integrity of balanced testing.
Because then wouldn't you just be like,
need
we need Danny Spiegel in every event? She's the most Googled CrossFitter.
Yeah. Is she? Number one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
You would need, if you're thinking about workout construction, you would need someone like you who is a purist. You're thinking about like a
program design director.
Yes.
And then you need a show director.
And then you
need
someone,
it needs to be collaborative.
So then I would be like, no, we have to change this to make it more fun. So like, I'm basically balancing you out and you're balancing me out. So because otherwise I'd be like, I want to do these crazy tests too that Castro used to do because they're fun to watch and it gets eyes on it.
Yeah.
But maybe they aren't great tests for the sport of fitness. And then we basically are pushing back and forth. And then you have a huge group that's obviously then practicing, demoing, seeing what works, what's fun on camera, and then you refine the test. I mean, every other sport's doing that process. Like, they're figuring out what's the most entertaining way to watch. And are you resting that on your face?
Yeah.
Sorry. Chris is in there
I'm waiting for the next topic. Hey, y'all want to talk about Roman or something? What else we got?
His first question to me, how much caffeine have you had today?
I had 2 of those fucking C2 Starburst junts.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of caffeine.
You know what's funny is Hiller gave me one of those at the games, and the next day I took it, and I forgot that they had beta-alanine in them.
And you were buzzing?
Dude, my face was, my ears were on fire. I was like, because I chugged it. As I was running in, I was like, phew.
Yeah.
It makes my head where I have to like scratch. I gotta
scratch your inside of your forehead.
Yes, like move the skin. It's so weird.
I just hadn't had it in like a year. So
yeah, when you asked the original question, what I actually wanted to talk about was...
What was the original question for everybody?
What are you passionate about? What do you want to talk about today?
I thought the most passionate and excited I was during the whole games was the teen division.
The teen division.
Okay.
And it was like as in
Teenage
like coaching Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Caden. This was the first time that I've actually spent time coaching somebody in the age groups, because normally it's all individuals. But this year it lined up that I had Tuesday and Wednesday as just focused on the teens and going through the age groups. And then Thursday I was kind of bouncing between teen and individual. And I talked to Noah and I was helping Ant throughout the competition.
Right.
I told them, like, hey, I'm going to focus on him and get him through the finish line, and then I'll come over here. And they're both super seasoned athletes. They don't need hand-holding. It's like a different coaching process at this point. So I got to actually spend time back there, and it was way more fun to not have to deal with all the professional bullshit frustration. It was like, oh, we're all here with the same level of desire to compete. Like, you see these teenagers PRing, breaking down, getting carried off the floor, the same level of, like, they're not as strong and they're not as good at dealing with all the shit yet, but it's all there. Like, these are the future, like, Alexis's and Noah's. Like, this is where the cultivation of it was. And it felt so much more emotionally passionate for me to be in, because you're dealing with, like, even Caden's emotions. He's went out and he got smashed on day one, like absolutely smashed. He PR'd his snatch. He was 5 pounds off his clean and jerk PR, and he took last place in the lifting event, which I was completely wrong about. Like, I was trying to hype him up before the event, and I was using the data from the clean workout and quarterfinals, and I was like, look, you were 6th in that. You were really only 5 or 10 pounds off of being 3rd in that. So I think if you go out, you PR both lifts, we could be somewhere in like 3rd to 7th range and just take our medicine, and it is what it is. And he was really stressed out. He's like, I know these people in my division, they're all going to be snatching bigger than me. It was the worst warm up of all time. He missed 205 like 4 times as I was trying to like ramp him up. I came in like, oh my God, I'm ready to lift. And I was like, okay, let's build up. We're going to open at 205. He goes out, miss.
Hold on, real quick, if you're going to continue talking about coaching teens and Caden, real quick, make us care about Caden real quick.
So I started work. Caden went to the 2014 games, he went to the 14. Yeah, he went to the games in 2021 for the 14-15 division, and he's like Mighty Mouse. There's pictures of him where he's like 6 inches shorter, and he was barely 100 pounds competing against a field where the next lightest person was 150 pounds. So he's literally like
the pictures are insane. It looks like you're watching
Can you put one up?
I'll put one up in the episode.
Yeah, he really looks like he's the little brother of the people that he's competing with. 50 pounds smaller, super short. So we started working together shortly after that. It was a crazy process because he was playing sports and he was doing a bunch of training, super high volume, back injury, all sorts of stuff. But from my perspective, I'm like, this kid's got something. Like he's really, really, really strong relative to how small he is. Let's just do the work that's required to get as big and strong as we can. We started working together last year. We built back up and he went into the next division, and he was just too small. He didn't even make semifinals. His strength numbers were just not good enough. All of his conditioning metrics, all of his gymnastics, top of the field, but still too small and gets smashed. We go through a whole nother year of development, and he wins quarterfinals, takes third in semifinals. And like, he's just got a mindset. Like he wants to win. Like that's it. It's win or nothing. He's charismatic and
he's just a little shit talker.
Yeah, talks shit like about David Goggins, and he comes in here and talks shit to Travis. And once he qualified, he kind of got wrapped into the games prep, and I spent much more time with him. I went up to his house and we went out on the water once a week. He participated in our Friday sessions with the whole group. He was training with David, and he just got much more integrated into the community. So I kind of like fell in love with the process of coaching without all of the, you got to do videos and you got to have a social media following. You're going to go and make money. It was just like, you want to win because you want to win. That's it. Like, you're just competitive. So that's the Caden. I don't know if that made you
No, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah, for people who don't know him.
Yeah. So we went into that first workout, and he PRs his lifts. It has a great lifting session and gets smashed. And he's demoralized in the process of doing it. And then the next workout is heavy carries, burpees, wall balls, rowing, wall balls, heavy carries, burpees, and heavy carries. So it's like 4 things in the workout that are all not really good for being small, and 1 thing that's good for being small. And I was like, look, man, this workout's going to be dictated by your wall ball row pace. Like, you just got to go in and you have to completely sell out. He went in, he completely sold out. He was already behind just from the carries. He got a bunch of no reps on wall balls, and he like broke mentally on the field. Like, he was last, he was coming back. He knew he was last. He sat down for a minute because he was like, why am I going to do this if I'm just last? Then he got mad at himself for doing that, and he ended up finishing himself through the workout. And it like really broke his spirit. Like, he was in a really bad place. So he goes out on the next workout, which was Helen, and he goes out to win. He's in the lead for the whole first round. He's in the lead for the whole second round. He's in the lead for the run. He gets into the set of kettlebells in the last round. Right as he's finishing, he gets 2 no reps. Then he goes to finish his last rep, drops the kettlebell, goes to move forward, gets a no rep on his last one, has to come back, do the last swing, finishes, and went from first to fourth in that little like quick muck up right at the end of the workout. So he took 10th, 9th, 4th on his first workouts and was in 10th place starting. So he went out to win, but now he's in last place. And I let all the people down. All these people are watching. Me and Chris are filming him. And like, it was a super emotional experience for me to go through. And it was kind of funny because I was like, this doesn't like matter. The stakes are so much less. But it was interesting to me that I feel like I cared more because he cared more. Like, the mindset that he was in to go out and win and be his best put me in that headspace and made it more passionate and emotional than like Noah's finish. I was coaching Noah and Ant, and Noah's was like finishing telling the story of his career. He purposefully made the decision that he was not going to train to win the games, which I think if you do that, you also like are not training to podium because I feel like the top 5, top 10 are all like, at the beginning of the week, they're all good enough to win. It's just who gets the right workouts and who executes,
Right.
and then that distributes amongst them. And he made the decision that he was just going to go out with a more attitude to just experience it. He wanted Joanne to be in his corner as his coach, and he was trying to be happy and just have some good moments. And if he finished well, great. If not, he was okay with that. And that led his emotion, and then that leads my emotion. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to get super invested in like every detail, warm-ups, cool-downs, pacing, strategy if you're not.
Because you're only going to give yourself a headache.
Yeah, you can't do it, right? What am I going to...
Still impressive that he was able to finish where he did with that.
Where did
like,
he
just
end up
that
again?
mindset.
16th, I
Yeah, I
think.
mean, it's
he was
top 20, finishing through all the cuts.
That
and
is
stuff.
crazy.
My goal with Joanne that I didn't say to him before the event was just to make the cuts, all of them.
Yeah.
And I know that like for him to be at that level and think like that probably wouldn't be something he's naturally accustomed to doing, but I was writing his training, so I was knowing what he was doing.
That is crazy. That you
Yeah.
just barely, you kind of like phoned it in, for, you know.
Yeah, well, don't say he phoned it in because then
You get
he
what
would
I'm
be
saying.
mad. But
Yeah.
like, it's more that
No, he straight up said as much when he was on our podcast.
Yeah,
He's like,
true.
I'm not going into this to,
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
putting in my effort to win.
Yes, and I think if you don't put your effort to win, you're not putting your effort in to shine.
But that's
as well.
crazy that you got, yeah, that's pretty good.
And so I thought it was good, but my mindset was just like really relaxed with him. And Ant got his invite 2 weeks before the
I know.
games, and we explicitly said like, I'm just here to like carry your bags, talk shit, have fun, keep it loose for you. And we had a great weekend. Like
That's a
made
cool
it-
story too.
Yeah, I feel like my coaching experience with
Tell people who Ann is real quick.
And so Ant Haynes he took third in the Asia semifinal. Ed Haynes and him own Coastal CrossFit in Hong Kong and The Process, which is a coaching organization similar to TTT, but more focused in Asia. Ant has come out to TTT, I think, 2 times to train with Travis for the games. One when he was just passing through, and one when he made it as the national champ in 2019. So he's very familiar with our brand. His brother's his coach, and his brother was a client of ours for 5 years.
Yeah.
So he finds out he's qualifying. He reaches out to Travis. Travis had kind of other stuff he had to do at the games. And I told Travis, like, well, I'm only going to have a teen coaches pass because Joanne is going to be with Noah. It would be really helpful for me to be involved and be in the back, and I can just like coach him. I know it won't be like, I don't know him that well, so I can't really provide value, but I actually feel like there were a couple times where we strategized and made game plans that set him up for success together, even if it was just us talking through and him bouncing his idea off me and getting more confident in his plan. And he made it through. He was in 24th when they cut to 30. And then he got all of his basically weaknesses workouts on that Saturday. But the Sunday's tests were really good for him. So it was interesting because Ant didn't really perform that well. He finished in the middle of the pack. But
and he only went because someone backed out or something?
somebody couldn't get a visa. I think they were from Iran or from Russia or something like that. They couldn't get a visa. So they backfilled his spot. So my whole experience with Ant was just like happy with no pressure. Like it was just like 2 friends hanging out while
And he's such a
going
good
out.
dude, too.
Yeah. And he's funny. He was talking shit and he was keeping it light. So I had a really good time, but I didn't have the same competitive pressure that I'm normally there for the games. Even watching Alexis, that was super cool, and was super cool to see her in the leader's jersey. It was really emotionally rewarding for me to see Adam has put so much work, and they train very differently from how I think about training for CrossFit. And she's navigated medical stuff and back tweaks and things throughout all of the years that I've watched her develop. And there's just been this awesome, progressive, keep getting better mentality and getting more confidence. And it was really cool to watch that. But for me, because I was a little bit removed, like I've coached Alexis through a very small number of sessions that I'm in control of, but I don't really deal with any of her day to day really. So there was a little bit more of an emotional layer than like Caden, where I spent all the time with his sessions, going through his videos. And that was more just like peaceful for me to watch her perform. When she went from 1st to 6th, I wasn't like, oh my God, we lost the leadership. But that would have happened to me, I think, if I were like her coach in the heat of battle, because that's how I am competitive. Like that's what I go into it as a coach to do. If you say this is what you want, then like I put that emotional pressure on myself. So teen was much more emotional for me than individual.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I think we all kind of gravitate to the person that's doing it just because they're passionate about winning, as opposed to it just being a paycheck. And I know most people aren't getting big paychecks in CrossFit. If you think about that, like I've always loved watching college football before they were getting paid, because these guys are just out there like representing their team, as opposed to it being like, I just want to get paid. Whereas the NFL, it's like, oh, I got $40 million already this year. And, you know, not that they're not going hard, but it's just, there's something different about it. So
I loved it. And it made me think like maybe I need to spend a little bit more time cultivating a future of youth athletic development, because there were a lot of things that I saw back there where I'm like, oh man, there's just like, it's so ripe for
rampant drug use.
No, not that. Just like there's so much progress that could be made. Personal development, communication, feeling comfortable on camera, warm-ups, cool-downs, strategy of pacing, game day strategy. Like, you see such the gap because I spend all this time with professional athletes, and then you go down here where they're developing and they're very fit, but they're unpolished. So I feel like there's more work to do down there. And then when I went, like the PFAA meeting that I referenced earlier, almost all the talks in there.
For people who don't know, what's that?
The PFAA is the Professional Fitness Athletes Association. It's essentially like they're attempting to create a governing body that is basically the collective voice of all of the top athletes in the sport, which I think ultimately is needed. Like we need something like that. Brent seems to be running it. Then they have Mitch and Grace, who are
Brent Fikowski.
Yeah, Brent Fikowski. Mitch and Grace, who are like administrative legal support roles there. And then I know like Tia was a founding member. Lazar Ducic was a founding member. Vellner is on it. So there's a couple people that are really invested, and then they're like roughly trying to gather the rest of the athletes on board. But listening in there, it's like all the talks are about money. And I get it. Like, they're professional athletes. They have to make a living. They have to be part of the show. But for me, I'm like, oh, this is just like not that I didn't sign up for it and don't run a business where I need to think about money, but I love coaching because of coaching. And in the teen division, it was all removed. And I like, almost like I reinvigorated my own passion for the games.
Well, two things. Let's get back to PFA at one point, but also you mentioned teen, and we hadn't talked about Masters either. So teen and Masters, the word on the streets is that they're going to be gone.
Yes,
this year. And we had Eric Cohen and Amy. How do you say your last name? Chapperton.
Yeah. Chapperton.
By the way, they both came up and said, "What's up?" I appreciate that you did that.
Both of them podiumed.
Yeah.
Shout out to those.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they crushed it. A second and a third for them, and then obviously, I think Caden did a great job coming back. You didn't finish that story, but like going from 10th to almost podium.
He had some event wins.
Yeah, he the next day then he took 4th, and then 4th on a workout that we thought was going to be another damage control workout because it had sleds in it, and that's where I lost my freaking voice screaming at him. And
you called me, and I was on the sidelines filming, and he calls me, and I can barely hear him. He's like, "Tell him to blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Dude, he's not going to know what that means."
So he was pretty much right next to Caden's lane. The coaches only get to be basically where the finish line is, and that workout there's sled.
You can't talk to him.
I can't get my voice to him. So Chris was right next to him, and I was like, I'm going to call Chris because he was reaching, and this was the unpolished thing. So we went through the semifinal workout with the sled drag. So over the course of however many weeks, we watched all of these athletes refine their ability to pull that sled fast and with big pulls. So when it came out, I had enough knowledge to know, like, okay, well, these are the key minimum cues I can give him. And what I said was reach as far down the rope as you can get with as much slack out of it as you can before you pull, because he's short and he's already going to be at a disadvantage with weight. So he would pull, and reach that hand, and then he left his trail hand where it was instead of doing one final reach and then pulling. And that extra 6 inches, it makes a huge difference because it pulls a little bit more of the slack out. Oh, no. Come on, man. Chris. Always, you know what you did. Don't play dumb over there. So I see him do it, and I'm like, fuck, I need to get this information to him. So I'm like, I can't scream to him. And I see Chris on the sidelines filming him. So I called him, and I see him look at his phone and then like look over at me confused. And I was like, pick your fucking phone up.
What was your cue to Chris? That's what I want to know.
I said, tell him to move.
Watch this.
To take his backhand and do one more reach before he pulls.
Okay, this motherfucker's
take your backhand and do one more reach.
No, this motherfucker's out there hurting in the sunlight.
Yeah.
And even though I'm close, he's probably not hearing me great.
Yeah.
And take your backhand.
Even if you were right next to him, when you're in the middle of a workout.
I was like, what else could I tell him?
Right. So he said he's not going to say anything. And then I realized I could get out of that coach's area and go into the regular spectator area behind where Chris was. So like another 7 feet behind him, farther away from the field. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to scream to him myself.
I didn't even hear you. So that means he definitely didn't hear you.
No.
So I ran out, and then one really loud, powerful scream telling him to one more reach before you pull. That's all I did. Nothing. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to scream again. And I basically almost gave the guy in front of me a heart attack because there was somebody like standing right in the thing, and I screamed at the top of my lungs right basically in his ear. And he looked back at me like, oh my God, what was that? And then I walked back, and I'm like, he's getting close to the finish line. He's looking down his lane like this as he's pushing. 2 people have already finished, and he's in a neck and neck race with somebody that's all the way down. And he was pretty far down the lane of push, and the guy right next to him was pushing it faster, coming up and catching up on his butt. And I could tell that Caden was only looking down his periphery and couldn't see this guy coming. So I was like, he's right on your ass. Keep pushing. Just those 2 screams, and right after that workout, I couldn't talk. And I was like, wow, I just lost my voice from 2 screams.
You were also probably screaming much louder than you think.
Probably, because it was so loud, and you hear all the music. So I was a little bit upset at myself. And
what do you think, though, about teen and masters? Is this true? Have y'all heard anything about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's all rumors. I've heard from a bunch of people. I know that's secret, but at this point, I've heard from so many people from so many different places that I think it's just a matter of time before it gets released. I think that I understand why they did it.
No, tell the people what it is.
I don't really know other than age
what have
group.
You heard?
And I've heard age group and masters will no longer be part of the CrossFit Games show. I don't know if that means it's not going to be part of the CrossFit Games season or what the information is, and information might change. So that's just me sharing a rumor.
Initial thought, yes or no?
What?
Initial thought, yes or no?
I think
that it'll happen?
I agree with it. Good caller back.
Well, I would say I disagree with it, but I actually think it may end up being a better opportunity for all age groups because there's infrastructure elsewhere that could put on a better show. And if you watched live, if you watched the YouTube streams, it was awful. Like you couldn't see a thing. So we could actually get like Legends last year had commentators and they had really good camera angles of all the athletes. It wasn't just like on one person, so you could see the entire group. And I think that would be a better opportunity for masters and for the age groups.
I agree. I think it will be a better opportunity, but I still disagree with it. And I think part of what I disagree with is it seems weird that CrossFit's North Star would be to get more eyes on the sport. And I don't know if that just meant that that's the sport's North Star, or that's an indication that CrossFit's business model is going to change more towards being the sport and less towards the affiliates. But I think that, a lot of the people that are in the Coliseum at the CrossFit Games are the leftover teens masters and families of the teens masters because they're the biggest fans. So I think it's possible that people take for granted that the fan base that travels out there and stays to watch the games is some of those people. So I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with potentially making the whole community of people that is a huge user base of the Open not happy with how things are going to be done.
Well, I guess that begs the question, do we care about the online viewership or the in-person viewership more if we're trying to grow this thing?
What do you mean?
Because, I mean, to your point there, it was like, well, we might miss these people who are traveling with the masters and teens, but do we care about the butts
I think
and
part
seats?
of it goes hand in hand. You know, as you get more online viewership, those people then want to go see it live, just like any other sport. And then you pay to go see it live because it's cool to see it and sit in the Coliseum and cheer your favorite person on.
Yeah, and this is another thing. I can't really make that assumption or that judgment until I know what is the change. Because if the change is just like, hey, everyone's still doing the Open, everyone's still doing quarterfinals, everyone's still doing semifinals, but then when you come into person, it's going to be on this date, it's going to be run by this group, and the CrossFit media team is still going to be there to support this thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing than like, okay, well, they're going to do the Open and quarterfinals because we still want their money, but we're not going to be involved in anything else, and this external organization is going to do everything, and CrossFit will not display it and show it. Or
okay, let's go with that.
If that's the case, then I would tell masters athletes not to sign up for the Open and quarterfinals and then put all of your money into whoever takes over.
Yeah, somebody is going to come out and do it. Yeah.
Let's say that that's the case, though. What's the benefit of that for the main show then?
Well, it's just that
the
cost to produce goes way down. I mean, there's a huge amount of infrastructure and people that have to get staffed and judges and I mean, not cameras this year because the live stream looked to be on an iPhone.
So is that a good thing to do given the the size of our sport right now, potentially, or something to try? Or is it like, oh, come on, guys, be better than that?
I don't know. It's hard to do even this brainstorming without being involved in the discussions.
Yeah.
What's the economic problem
money,
you're trying to solve? What's the viewership you're trying to solve? To me, there are already competitions out there that have run profitable and participation-driven competitions. So it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility to me that CrossFit could have come up with a better system to partner with one of those event organizers. Maybe this is what they already did.
Right.
They bring the media team and the production team. The other one does all the logistics, and then it becomes a better system.
And that's what I was saying. I think it would be a better system that way, at least with how CrossFit has done things so far.
And it just says, okay, well, you could take your best people in the world that run CrossFit comps, all your CrossFit employees that we know have been doing it, and on one weekend they can focus on the professionals, and on another weekend they could focus on the amateurs.
Yeah.
And I think that would be good.
I like that.
What I think, though, is that's not what's actually happening. I think all of the resources are going to be put more towards the pro sport, less on the community, and they're going to outsource to the community to say, you guys handle this type thing.
So, but is that maybe taking a couple? Well, let me ask it a different way. If that is taking a couple steps back to take some steps forward, and that maybe eventually, once everything catches back up, they bring that stuff back in-house potentially, would that be okay?
I don't think if they let it go now, I don't think they should take it back in-house, because there's going to be a whole team of people that then get really good at running that. Yeah. Maybe they just I know
keep
it's not licensing
apples to apples, but it's like you don't go watch the NBA finals and then watch the teen and masters NBA or basketball finals in the same weekend.
Yeah, in the same weekend. Yeah, I get that, but I do think that you need, in order to create a good professional sport, I think one thing people need to think about is that in order to make really good, compelling athletes at the highest level, you need an infrastructure that allows those people to practice going up. NBA has AAU, IBJJF is a jiu-jitsu circuit that puts on a world championship where you get paid, and then they also have white belt, blue belt, masters. They have other things that kind of feed and funnel it.
Yeah.
USA Triathlon has amateur divisions where they have very well-run professionals.
But the NBA G League championship's not the same week as the NBA finals.
Yes, so that's kind of why I say, just in fairness to who's ever making decisions, before I make a judgment call as to whether I agree or disagree with that happening, I want to see what actually is happening.
Yeah.
What are they doing to support the sport? They also said they want to be transparent in their communication. So I'm hoping when that information comes out, it is transparent. And then there's a real full dialogue like, okay, why did this happen? Who is it supporting? You say that you want to support the affiliates. How are they supported in this decision? And I think then we, as I guess we're like critics of the main thing, like that's just by nature of commentating on what's going on, then we can make more fair opinions. But this again this is what I don't like about the professionalism, is that some people that are competing in this thing, who have businesses that run this thing, they know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, when it's going to get released to the public. Yeah. They can build their businesses around it. Like that, I think, is the level of professionalism that needs to change. It's like, okay, if you have these decisions that are being made, roundtable these with people in the community, publicize the roundtable decisions, make your decisions, make them public, let us understand and build our models to support what you're trying to build. Whereas it's almost like from our side, it's like the cat trying to chase its own tail. Like we're running and then it's okay, you change direction over here, and we can't create professional courses of action to meet the sport and build developmental leagues and build athletes and tell our masters athletes right now what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
like their season's over.
We've done a good job of supporting all our masters athletes. We'll continue to do that. I think you talked about your joy in, the younger age groups. I've had such great joy in looking at these masters that have come in injured or hurt because they've been training so hard for so long and doing stuff in other programs that's just ridiculous, like masters shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And then getting them better, getting them healthy, and then allowing them to do the sport that they love for 10 more years. Like that's where my passion has been recently, especially seeing all these masters come into like our online program and get better and then qualify for semifinals, qualify for the games. And that is something that there's 140,000 masters that sign up for the Open every year. So if they just say, screw it, we'll find a way to help those masters athletes.
They won't. I don't think they can make a decision that does that. If they do, for sure, I would make a bet right now. I'll make a bet with the audience that they will make sure that whatever the qualifier is to get to whatever the new age group is going to be open and quarterfinals.
But still pay.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see like what happens. And then is whoever's running it, if there's an external organization running it, is then there going to be another registration fee. So you pay for the open, you then pay again for quarterfinals. Did you have to pay for semifinals after quarterfinals? Yes.
Yep.
So you
Each
pay
stage.
for open, you pay for quarterfinals, you pay for semifinals, and then you pay another fee to this external organization. Does that external organization get any of the funds from the age group people that go there to help put on the show? Or is it largely going to be the revenue model is only the people that qualify go into that competition? And that's going to be a hard business for that group to run, because it's like, okay, well, how many people qualify? And then that your registration fees is it. Getting sponsors for that is probably not going to be super easy because no one's watching the age group in the Masters. So in order for the good age group system to actually be run well, I think it needs to get a distribution of the resources from the big show. Like there needs to be downstream funnel of resources there. And I think with constrained resources, that's just not going to happen for a while.
I think there are enough resources within the Masters community that you'd be surprised if we were able to help coordinate that and get these people in the same room. Like there's a ton of money in the Masters groups, and there's a lot of passion. Like you talked about with Caden and those young, the same thing. Like Eric or Amy, they're doing that because they love the sport, not because they're making money. They both have jobs, they have families, they have other stuff going on.
It's their passion.
They're passionate about it, and because of that, I think that drives them to still try to find other ways to compete in the sport, even if CrossFit was like, you know what, we're pulling our hands back.
Yeah. I talked to Amy for a second, but I talked to Eric while he was going through the competition a bunch. Just like, generally speaking, you can only focus on so much at an event. And I basically was like, okay, well, my job here is Caden, Ant, Noah. And that's kind of where I kept my mental resources and bandwidth. And then Eric would come up in between events. And what I find interesting about the Masters is that there's so much joy, enthusiasm, love, but so much more disconnection from the result. Even though he podiumed and he was excited about podium, he's just much more realistic about what he's good at, what he's not good at, if things don't go well. Like they're just way more emotionally
that's
stable.
60 years of living life.
Yeah. So that was cool. It's just like, I think for me, my coaching is driven as almost living vicariously through the young quest and strive for greatness and glory and winning and professional athletics. It's almost like that's always been embedded in me. And I think the Masters side of me is just my own training. It's like realizing like, well, I can't want to win everything because I'm not good enough to do it. So I think I'm still passionate about the Masters. I was just a little bit disconnected from it this year because I
feel like
didn't
we should have Eric come down and then you and him verse each other
in some workouts.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We got to make them heavy.
Get him, Eric.
Like, I don't care how old you are.
I'll write the workouts.
Yeah, he'll probably crush me. He told me he was not super confident about the run workout. That was the workout that we're talking about. And he's like, I'm not really that good of a runner. He actually did pretty well on it. But as he was telling me, I was like, you'd probably still beat me in a running workout. and you're double my age.
What would your 5K time be on the 4.5?
On that track?
Yeah.
I think I could probably run like a 20. I think I could have kept up with some of the teams, like the 25 minute, like 30-minute 5K reduced down to 25 because it was short.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So some favorite games moments.
So Alexis with Helena. Was it Helena?
I don't know.
Is that supposed to be like a Greek myth edition?
I don't know. I just think of the My Chemical Romance song.
What is that?
Oh yeah, I know that song.
Come on, sing it. Give me a little.
We need to flip a camera around.
Do you know that song?
I know the song he's talking about. I can't carry a tune.
Okay, so Alexis on Helena. I'm watching from ESPN.
It was an awesome moment.
All I saw was her get a couple no reps and fall off the lead pace. And I was like, fuck, oh God. And then she catches all the way back up in that last set of dumbbell snatches. And me, Adam, and her, right before that workout, we're talking, and the guys had just went. And I was like, look, first of all, that first run is just kind of weird because they horseshoed. And what they said from the calculations is that they took basically the distance that it would be on a straight line from the exit to your rig, and then they multiplied it by 3 So that way, if these people are running more distance than the people in the middle, they basically did that entire change in distance over all 3 rounds in the start line. So it wasn't that it was just the start line to make it equal to get out the door. It was the start line to make it equal through all 3 rounds.
Right.
So the first round was kind of weird where some of the people that were on the end rounds were getting back in on the run faster than they actually would be. So Adam told me that ahead of time, and he kind of put the thought into my head, like, okay, well, don't really worry about being in the race in the first lap. So when I talked to Noah, I was like, just run out the door quick to try to get through any bottleneck, and then just settle into a pace on the first one. Let that separate, focus on dumbbells, power snatch, speed, and cycling, and then think about the race kind of establishing a little bit more after round 2 almost.
Did the broadcast bring that up?
No, they said that they did it like a start line for a 400-meter race, but I don't think they made it clear that it was.
'Cause that's important information to have as you're watching.
Well, that was also important information. That was another thing is like, I would like to know how those calculations were done.
That'd
Like,
be
did they
interesting to
beeline from the entry, and then they did an A to B line from the middle rig, and that distance multiplied by 3 to me seemed like that horseshoe would be a little bit bigger, but whatever. It is what it is.
You know, it's funny.
They did something. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, they made an effort at least. Whereas in past years, there have been stuff where it's like you just deal with it.
Start at the bar.
You're just like, okay.
Yeah. I heard some people say that the dumbbell cycling didn't matter, but man, it played a huge role in that workout.
Yeah. So what I said right afterwards, and I told Noah before he went, I was like, I think the dumbbell cycling speed in round 2 and 3 might be more important than the run speed. And Noah had a really good finish on that workout. I think he took like 5th.
Yeah, he did a good job.
So right before I left the arena, I went out and Adam and Alexis were talking there, and I was just like, look, the dumbbell cycling speed was a huge differentiator in that workout, like way more than people thought. Will was in that heat, and he went like Mach 10.
Yeah.
That was maybe a one movement where the standards of every person were maybe not linearly
It's
held
really tough when guys and girls are going really fast
at that speed. Yeah. And I know people were hating on that, but I had that conversation, and then I went back to the hotel and I was watching, and she got a couple no reps, and that pissed me off. Like, it just put me into the mindset, like, fuck, this uneven application of things, because I saw people getting away with, like, in the end, they were going Mach 10 and the dumbbells were like in front of their faces. And
I like that they didn't no rep towards the end. One of the females did get no rep, but everyone else was kind of the same, and they just let it play out. Which is like the NBA, you know, the playoffs. They don't call fouls. Like, let it just go.
Yeah, so I think they need to be more clear on that. But then I'm watching the event, and I'm super fucking pissed off. And sorry.
Were you?
I cursed. Yeah. And by the last round, I see somehow, because she wasn't really on the broadcast, she caught back up and she was in the lead group, and she went like Mach 10 on the dumbbell. And then I was watching it, it looked like she put the 21 down, and she was like shot out of a cannon how fast she went to the finish line. And I was so fired up that I screamed in my hotel room. I was like, yes! Like, so fired up. And I sent her a message that like had 80 exclamation points. So ironically, one of my favorite moments of the games, I was just sitting in my hotel by myself watching a freaking live stream.
I was just happy that for once, for one of those finish line finishes with one of our athletes, like, I caught it at the perfect angle, and they turned the direction of my camera.
Yeah, looked right at you.
Oh God, finally.
Yeah. So that was a really cool moment. Noah getting some love and respect was a pretty cool moment.
Can I tell you one of my faves?
Yeah.
It was Noah. So me and Habdo went back to the hotel, and we came back, and obviously the Lex stuff, like, all week, just documenting that was crazy fun to watch. But just a low-key Noah moment was coming back from the hotel, you know, where they walk through to the athlete village?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're walking there. It's not like a big crowd of people. There's no one. It's empty, right? And then me and Habdo are walking back to go through into the entrance of the games, and we look over, and far away from us, Noah's just talking to two non-CrossFit related security. So CrossFit has their hired on volunteer security, and then there's just the Tater McElroys who work at what's the place called? The event, right? And he's just talking to those people. And it's
Always,
not like,
man.
it's not just like a walking by, giving them a high five. It's like he's really chatting them up.
Yeah.
And so I get out the camera and just start filming him. He doesn't even know we're over there filming him, but he's just shooting the shit with those people, and then other people will walk by, and I'm like, It's amazing. People,
Yeah.
People always say it's when the cameras are on and not on, and then I'll be damned if walking by, there he was.
I've
doing
said
it with
this
the cameras
before,
off.
but like he really is one of the most genuine people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like he cares about people more than anybody I've ever seen. Like he'll talk to anybody, put a smile on your face. Like it's awesome.
I don't get it. I mean,
I can't do it. That's
he
why I
is
admire it.
Amazing, but it really is like, I feel like I'm too sensitive and selfish with my boundaries. Like I got tired and we were going to go out to, I put together at the end of the competition, I was like, you know what? Usually at the end of these things, I just go into a cave and go to sleep and I don't talk to all the people that, like, there were so many people at the games that I feel like I got to see in training and get emotionally invested, but I barely even paid attention to at the games because you're just like busy and focused on what you can focus on. So the team and like, I felt like there were people I wanted to have dinner with. So I coordinated dinner. Then we showed up and they were like, we only have 2 chefs in the back and we have 25 people. And I was like, me and Travis looked at one another and I was like, I'm just going to go eat and go to bed, even though I organized it. But I don't know why I told you that.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story. But to finish that Noah thing, I've seen him do that here. Like we went out to eat one time and he just was talking to the waiter.
Yes.
Like no one's around. No one sees that. And I hate when people, he hasn't got as much hate recently, but I've seen stuff in the past couple years ago, when he was more on top and like, oh, he's fake smiling, he's fake happy. It's like, no, that's the real dude right
That's
there.
what I was saying is like, when I get into that, like I'm tired or drained or I'm not feeling good, I'm just like, I'm shut out. I don't want to interact. I feel like my mechanism is to like pull inward.
Right.
Noah, like we left the underground and we would walk back and I had this whole thing going on with Athlete Control. We had some big Athlete Control fans. I forgot their names, but that was actually.
I saw one of them.
Oh, you saw one of them.
Her name was Judy.
Judy,
think,
yes.
right?
Judy, shout out. Yeah. That was another probably.
I hope that was her name because she was so cool.
Yeah, there were some highlights of just people
Nice.
coming up and talking, but they had like this running joke that they were like, if you want me to walk back with you with Noah to stop him from fans. And I was like, first of all, I don't think you could stop him from talking and signing. And second of all, like this is the last time that I'm going to get to experience with him. And I really enjoy watching. Like we walked back from the beer garden. You come up out of the underground and you walk through the beer garden. And the beer garden is basically a group of it's a massive group of fans that can't get into the Coliseum and they're watching on a live stream. And there's just like basically tables and they're drinking beer and watching. And one of the highlights for them is that they can go out, get things signed, high five, and there's a big line. You walk in front of them, right in front of the big live stream, and then there's probably like 100 feet that you walk on and they're barricaded off. And Noah would go down and stop every single person. Selfie, sign, autographs. People see Noah's doing it, and then more people come over. So I waited. I timed it one time. It's probably a 400-meter walk, and it took me 28 minutes to go from underground to the back. But that is really who he is. And maybe in some ways...
And then when he was done with that, he talked to those dudes that no one saw.
Yeah, it's just kind of how he is.
I think we got to stop giving him props. This dude just loves hanging out.
Yeah, maybe to a detriment of this performance. I'm not sure, but...
No, that's good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though,
We're all
people are going
better
to
from
remember
having
those.
I think
they'll have
that's
those
what I
memories.
wish people had. It's like, you can't just have Noah at your games. You gotta experience this guy.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to see what
I
it's
agree.
like. So that was actually another highlight moment. Roman doing the double unders on one foot. That was just a powerful moment inside of the...
My buddy Justin Lamance from Memphis texted me. He was like, this is like reverse Rocky. You got a Russian in the USA and everyone's screaming his name.
Yeah.
It was forced from Kiki, but,
Yeah.
they still did it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I didn't really know like he was going to take last. And it was like, all right, is he doing this so he doesn't meet the minimum work requirement? Are they making him do his double unders on one leg? Like, could he have maybe put the other foot down? They said he wanted to do more than just the Echo Bike thruster. So I wish I could know like the real story. Like, did they tell you couldn't do it? Or like, what was it purposefully to just like make a moment and do something? But I just thought it was cool because the whole stadium was like rocking and you could like hear.
It was a cool
yeah,
moment.
it was just,
He had a nice solid time cap to, what was it, 3 minutes of that?
I know,
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is. It was
But it was
long.
cool because the crowd kept it going the whole time.
Yeah.
So speaking of Roman, and now the mix-up with Adler winning, he's been so talented for so long. And
What do you mean
amazing
mix-up?
athlete. Well, just like Medeiros.
it's
Medeiros
mixed.
is now
Oh, yeah.
in
Yeah.
14th or wherever he finished, and
Yeah.
Roman had a chance, but then obviously all that stuff happened, which
Yeah.
even if it didn't, you never know. Like they were close enough by that last day. where do you see the sport going for both the guys and the girls? Because, there was some mix up with the girls too. And like Tia, is she coming back? What about Mal and these other girls?
I don't know if I know enough to make a comment on that. I really hope that both Haley and Mal make it back, and not only make it back, but make it back to an elite level with their mental health intact.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for the sport. I'm not involved with them in any capacity, but I do know that there are a lot of young girls that struggle with that level of pressure, that level of training volume, maintaining low levels of body fat, the pressure of having to be on camera and talk. So I think it would be a good statement for our sport that it's built in a way that people like that can get the help they need, get back to an elite level and compete. And I think it also brings more stars back into the sport because
if that's even what they want to do.
Yeah, if it is what they want to do. If they don't, I hope they're happy. But if they want to come back, I hope that they are back in the field. And I think that the generational transformation is happening now. Like, I think Tia's going to come back as an elite. I don't think that it's a guarantee that she wins anymore because now there's going to be people that are a little bit more confident that they can win. Their numbers are starting to get really, really, really good. Their weights are starting to go way up, and she's going to be rehabbing from a pregnancy. So I don't think she'll be the guaranteed, oh, you're definitely going to win. I mean, I wouldn't put my life savings on the fact that she wouldn't win, but I do think that if there were an odds maker, she wouldn't be a guaranteed winner to come back, especially if you see Mal and Haley and like that whole group of people back in the field.
I think the female side is going to be a lot of fun, assuming that Mal and Haley come back, and then obviously like Alexis.
Well, what if they don't?
Even if they don't, think about like the top 7 or 8 girls are. I mean, even
Emma
farther
Lawson
back
is
than that,
super young.
amazing.
Alexis is young and super talented. And
so my hotel room was next to Emma all weekend, and so like I was sleeping on a couch, so my couch went up to, I guess, where her bedroom was. And I was like, Lex, hey, let me know if you need me to be loud tonight. It was funny though, because once she got the leader's jersey, and then obviously after she won, it was like you could tell a difference because those are paper thin walls at the hotel we were at. And once things started going good, you could tell a whole different vibe over there. Yeah. And then by the last night, I'm trying to go to sleep because we're going to wake up at 4 a.m. to go, and I was like, they were just partying hard, right? Yeah. Not hard. Yeah. It sounded like
they were partying.
Here's what it sounded like. You couldn't make out words, but it sounded like a lot of other people were partying, and she was just like, laughing, having a good time. But it is funny because when you know the context of why the people next to you are being loud, it's easier to just ignore.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because I was like, oh no, that was awesome. Yeah,
just let them do their thing.
Please do party.
Yeah. I mean, she's amazing. Watching her at semifinals too, like she's super aggressive, and there are probably, again, 5, 6, 7 girls that are all young that could easily win the games. Yeah. Like, if it just depends on the test. And so I'm really interested to see how that develops over the next couple of years.
Me too. I'm also very curious because, again, this goes down to the fitness versus views thing. What are they going to do to try to commercialize the sport? Who are they going to highlight versus who's performing at the highest level?
Right.
And I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion that a lot of times in athletics, there are people that get a lot of views that might not be your best athletes.
John Morant. Now, Ja's great, but he's not the best. Yeah. He got all the shine.
Yeah.
Up until the gun thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, 3 times now with the gun thing.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, I know that there was a documentary crew going out. I know that from what...
Sevi was back.
Yeah, Savon was back. They were filming... That
was really cool to see him back, actually.
Yeah, it was.
It felt like the world was right again.
Yeah. What was he doing, though? Is he doing stuff just for Savon, or is he making a documentary?
I'm pretty sure. No, I don't know the full scope of what they did. They had a crew, so it wasn't just him, but sounds like...
For CrossFit, though?
So here's what...
No, it's for him.
Okay. So I heard that there was basically... a number of media teams that were allowed the passes in the back. There was the 3 big camps, Hard Work Pays Off, Proven, and Mayhem, were allowed in the back with their media and with extra support teams. Like, there were people back there that weren't coaching directly that were allowed to be back there. Then there was Savon's team, and then there was a professional documentary team. That's what I heard. I don't know if there was more than that.
Craig Ritchie and Buddy Bros.
Oh, yeah, Craig Ritchie and Buddy Bros.
Yeah, it was funny because there was a day where all those media people got a tour from, I think, Dave. And so then you have all the regular scrubs like me, and we're all just watching them. All right, guys, we'll catch up with you.
See ya.
As they go on their fancy tour.
Yeah. So the documentary team seemed to put a lot of focus on Annie, Chandler, and then Roman and Adler during when they were
Chandler
going
had a
back and
good run.
forth. Yeah. And Medeiros. So it'll be interesting, like, how are they going to display what happened at this year's games? Are they going to be telling the stories of the next generation athletes, or like Alexis was in the lead for how many? Was it a full day that she had the leader's jersey?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think it was a full day.
Yeah, a day.
By the end of day
Yeah.
one, and then
I think
into
all of day
2.
two
Yeah.
or part of day two. But like, okay, well, how much is that going to be displayed in terms of like documenting the
Yeah.
thing
Right.
and moving forward? Like, how long is Annie going to be able to carry that, face of the sport type thing? They're going to have to start transferring some of that shine on to the next generation. And is it the best athletes, or is it the most marketable, or the best looking? So I'm very curious to see what actually gets put into practical application to grow the sport on that side. It seems like for the guys side, there is also a younger generation, but not enough established, like, oh, you're the next person type thing.
There's no clear dominance.
Well,
I
let's
said
talk
this
about-
last
let's talk
year and
about
got made
Medeiros.
fun of, but like it's
Yeah.
very clear right now.
Yeah.
What was y'all's thoughts? What happened there? I didn't get to watch a ton of the males this year.
Yeah. I don't know really what happened. I mean, he definitely didn't look great on the bike ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first workout on the field, I forgot what it was. It was the pick flip workout.
He didn't do great there.
That he looked like, I was like, wow, what happened? And then he came out and I think he won the handstand walk workout, or at least he won the heat he was in with that. I was like, okay, well, it's still there. And he bounced back from from something. I just don't know if it was like, did you get exposed with tests? Did you have a bad training year? Did you have a bad weekend? He definitely seemed different, but I also think...
Did he recover after day one?
Well, he finished overall still outside
Like
the top.
looking good wise? Maybe he was sick on day one.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
but he was still
I think it was
outside
like
the top
14th
10.
maybe,
right?
something like that. Yeah, 14th overall.
So I would say that would be an underperformance relative to the fact that you're the back-to-back champ. But maybe part of that is just like you're not feeling good because you're not in contention, right? That would just be hard to deal with, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure. I mean, I think the pressure is hard. He's still a really good athlete, but even at semifinals, he looked a little bit slower. Like his speed of movement was a little bit off. So, I mean, like sometimes you train hard for a couple of years, like maybe you need some time off and he'll bounce back. I mean, he's an amazing athlete. So like, I don't want to say that, he's fallen off the cliff, but I said this again last year that there's no guarantee that he could win back to back. Now he did, but even last year, if the test didn't work for him the last day, he was not winning.
Yeah.
There were a couple guys that were in front of him, and it just happened that it worked out. So I think there are probably 10 guys that all could win based on the tests, and it just depends on what happens with those tests over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, Frazier and Froning, I think, and even Tia gave an
they just dominated.
unrealistic expectation of how hard it is to win in a test that is changing every time you show up. You get 1 weekend to do it. Like, other sports have so many more opportunities to start to flex your dominance. This one is like, you got to show up on this week and you have to be ready to go. And if you're not, that's it. Like, that's your only measurement for the whole year, which maybe is one thing that needs to change, but that's a lot of pressure. And I think also, if you get sick at the wrong time or you're having relationship issues, like there's a lot of things that can make it really hard to focus
both at
on
the same time.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't really know what happened. I don't think that's indicative of his fitness. I'm hoping that maybe like that performance will lead to a bounce back and a comeback and an evaluation
I hope so
of what
too, because
happened.
I like that dude.
Me too.
He's super likable.
He seems like one of the most, but that's another thing. Like he's one of the most nice, genuine, multi-time winners. But again, like from a marketability perspective,
what if he goes Hulk Hogan on us? That's what Medeiros should do. You know
What's
how
Hulk Hogan?
Hulk was like he was a hero. He was a good guy. And then he went NWO and he became like a bad guy.
Oh, I didn't
What
know
if
that.
Medeiros trimmed the hair and then fucking like turned heel?
I don't think he could.
That'd be sick.
Yeah,
Hit
he
me up,
gives me-
Medeiros.
yeah,
I don't know who your manager is, but he's fired.
Yeah, he'll do your PR.
Just make you a bad guy.
He'll make the heel. He reminds me of Noah in terms of not in terms of his competitive disposition, but in terms of his just kindness.
Just like a
Like he
happy
just
guy.
seems like a happier.
Yeah.
Medeiros, and this is not a negative at all. This is actually a positive. He reminds me of like a human SpongeBob.
I haven't watched enough.
You never watched SpongeBob?
No. Have you?
Oh man, how did you miss that?
I feel
Someone
like
was
that's
watching.
like
I think
you hating
Bethany
on him.
Shadburn watched it. This Perrin was saying that in between heats she would go watch SpongeBob.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why that
Just like a way to calm herself down.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I get that. Like, just laugh and get your mind off everything.
Season 1 and 2, I'll stand up for it. I don't know where they went after that, but you should definitely.
All right, Medeiros, you are SpongeBob.
What
Only
else?
from
Anything
Chris's.
else?
Highlight
Let's talk about
moments.
Adler. So he doesn't get a ton of shine. What's your thoughts on him?
He's very fit. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen him compete in person a bunch. I've been to Rogue and Dubai and obviously the games multiple times. And there was one year where me and Travis drove him and his wife to and from Rogue every year. So I've spent a decent amount of time with them in proximity. He's fit. I mean, the thing that impressed me
Strong.
this year was that his running, just proficiency in general, his respiratory cadence, his foot cadence, where he took risks in running workouts was just like, wow. And he maintained his strength levels as he did that. So when I saw him, it was specifically in the Helena workout in round 3. He took the risk in round 3 and he pushed the pace on Roman and passed him. And you could just see the confidence. And I was like, wow. And then he came out in the next event and he hit his lifts and they were still really strong. And I was like, all right, well, this guy definitely has gotten way, way, way better.
He's always
So-
been well-rounded. I think the knock on him was that some of the endurance stuff, he was like middle of the pack or maybe a little bit behind that. But now he's cleaned that up to where I think as long as he can keep that, he's going to be a contender for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point it's health, pressure, timing of your peak. Like he's already now. And I think once you win,
Oh, yeah.
it changes your confidence. Like, oh, I can do this. And you can come from behind and deal with all the ups and downs and you have the experience. Now I think it's just a matter of like, okay, well, there's going to be a lot that comes with winning and more media and more pressure and more contracts to deal with and more social media sponsorship obligations. And they say that it's easier to get to the top than stay on top. And I think that's going to be really true in this sport because it seems like when you win, you get a disproportionate amount of like, all right, well, you just got all these contracts and now you have all these offers and now you're going to be on all this stuff. But it also means your responsibilities go way up and you can't just be in a cave training. The only people that seemed to really pull that off were Frazier and Froning.
Yeah, they both did a good job of just kind of separating
and
themselves
never
from
having to
everything.
show up for anything other than the games.
Yeah.
But I think you can do that if you're dominating.
But the confidence will play a huge role. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure he's more confident than ever. And now as long as he keeps that up, then you're going to see him bounce back and do well next year.
Yeah, but I like him as a star. I don't know if he's, for whatever reason, Froning was a really, really good superstar for growing the sport. I don't know if it was like just the way that he looked or his disposition or how he carried himself or a combination of all of those different variables. Frazier was a different kind of superstar that got visibility, I think, through the dominance of athletics, but he didn't really put anything out social media wise. He wasn't really in the public. So it'll be interesting. I feel like all sport growths are usually wrapped around a star athlete or a couple star athletes. And CrossFit had kind of had its first generation of those. And now it seems like we're on kind of the tail end of it. Like Rich just kind of retired from competition. Matt has now been retired for 2 years. And he is, as a coach in the sport, but coaches in this sport are never going to get the same visibility as being on the floor and the athlete. So unless he is coaching the next Matt Frazier level superstar, and like it's going to be hard to maintain that relevance. Tia is still competing and maybe coming back, but I think she's over 30 now, and there's all these 18-year-olds, and like there's definitely going to be a new generation. It's going to be interesting to see like who's the Conor McGregor of the sport, who has the ability with the performance, charisma to make it to make it
I
mainstream.
need you to be the next Connor.
Or
Can I ask you, or did you have something, Brandon?
I was just going to wrap it up with some fast questions.
Okay,
for him.
I got actually an interesting topic. Let's see if you agree. So,
do you have to go?
No. From the few YouTube this and that morning chalk up type stuff on Instagram, there's been some stories about the camps and how did they perform, and having done this now for years, what I don't know about advice, but what would you have to say to all the other coaches at camps who are getting hit with the, they didn't perform or you didn't meet expectations? What would you say to them?
To the people or to the
other
camps?
to the coaches?
Yeah.
You have to deal with the.
Yeah, what'd you do wrong? Why didn't they perform?
Yeah.
Well, I sent Jake Marconi. Jake Marconi coaches Jason Hopper at Hard Work Pays Off, or at least he is his coach. And I sent him a note afterwards saying, keep your head up. I'm sure you'll get hate just as a result of being involved in that top level sphere and having the spotlight on you. But like, that's part of sports, is just having high expectations and sometimes not having them met. And I think that's true. I do think that like there's a lot of press on the camps, the big camps, but some of the camps, like our training camp, has been around for many, many years. It wasn't like 2 years ago we started doing training camp. Like I used to, in 2015, I think I had 15 regional athletes here doing a preparatory camp for competitions.
It's now being talked about, and it's almost being talked about as if like we want to be this.
Yeah, but I never really thought
You're making
of
it
being,
a story, not us.
Yeah, I never really thought of being a training camp. Then you have training camps like Invictus, who's been a CrossFit affiliate for 15 years and had somebody win the games, but then they're not even in the training camp discussion a lot of times, even though they had a great performance in season. So I think it's a story to make the ex-champions more relevant and make their businesses more relevant in the space. But I don't think it's realistic to think that if you're associated with somebody who is a top-level champion, or you're getting the same training as somebody that a top-level champion is, that you're going to have the bulletproofness of the top-level champion. So I think if you have 100 people that go to Mayhem, a certain percentage of them are going to get exactly what they need and perform really well and learn from Rich and learn from the team, and they're going to crush, and they're going to crush expectations. A portion of them are not going to do well or have a bad weekend or not really
can be said of any of us.
Yeah. Sorry. I said Mayhem. Let's say with TTT. You go with 100 people. Some portion are going to crush it, really like it. Some portion are going to be trained really well, have good expectations, and underperform on game day just because of a bad weekend, bad event, drama leading into training, whatever it is. And then there's going to be kind of that middle group of people that figures out if they take value out of it or how to get better, but they just don't have the talent or any of that stuff. So
let me ask you this. Do you think that the way that people are training dictates how they perform at the games?
A little bit. I think it has.
Like, what's the percentage there?
70.
What was the question again? The way they're training?
So, like, how much does training dictate?
How much does
winning?
training? Yeah, exactly.
By that, do you mean the programming that
the programming that they, let's call it camps, camps that are programming.
But does
for
that
these
include
athletes.
the coaching from the coach?
The
or is it
coaching
just the
and the programming.
Okay,
I would just say like holistically,
Yeah. Well, I don't know what any other brand is doing under the hood. So like, I don't know how much, like, X number of athletes training at a camp. Let's say you got 20 athletes training at a camp. How many of them are getting individual instruction from a main point of contact coach or the subordinate specialty coaches out there? Like, I know Chris Henshaw is involved with a lot of the camps and has helped Froning and has helped Frazier. Is he going in and looking and writing an actual running training program for all 20 of those different athletes? Or is there just one program that they all follow? That would be very interesting for me to dig into that information so I could speak more confidently about it, but I don't really know. What was the original question?
Just what do you think that the programming dictates who wins or who does well and who does poorly at the game?
Yes. So I don't think the programming would dictate it. I do think that the person's self-confidence, sense of community, sense of belief in what they're doing, I do think that helps.
Now, shitty programming could probably hurt it.
Yes.
But if we're assuming that it's all relatively good.
I think at the top level, I think there may be things I disagree with how the people do it or how much volume they do of a certain thing. But most of the time, all the top level camps are doing something good enough for programming. Yeah. I think coaching separates in how well can you get each individual peaked as well as possible for game day, and how many years can you do it consecutively and consistently.
I think that's probably the hardest part.
I think the thing that...
Why that?
Well, just longevity in this sport is about continued progress in multiple different domains. It's about continued emotional management because it's so chaotic. It's always changing. It's under-resourced. It's hard to have enough finances. You don't know when you're going to compete. So I think the coaching process of helping people evolve their mindset to keep enjoying what they're doing and keep enjoying the suffering and know when to back off and when to go back into hard training. I think that is where longevity and separation in coaching is. I don't think whether you took third or first or eighth or whatever, like, coaching is not that. I know there are coaches out there that are winning and then like they're saying oh yeah, coaching, but that's just, I think, just a good sales pitch for a brand. The most important thing I think in dictating a winner is them.
Then that's all
their genetics and their mindset, and they're dealing with adversity and a little bit of luck, right? Like, for sure, there might have been people out there that could have won, but they tore a labrum And it's like, all right, well, now you got to rehab from that and then get that all the way back up.
Just
and that could
about
be
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
What happened to him? And that was the storyline. Like shoulder, or what's the guy's name? The old
The
HBO
singer?
show. No. Sorry, I said Kenny Powers.
Kenny Powers.
I was like, Kenny Powers. Sorry. Everyone understands.
Yeah. Everyone knows Kenny Powers.
I messed up my shoulder back in
Eastbound
98.
and Down.
Oh, yeah. Eastbound and Down. That was such a good
that show would not fly anymore.
No, yes. How did he not get canceled from that?
I don't know. Have y'all watched Super Bad in a while?
Yes. It
Super
is.
good.
Yes. But it's so...
Also a
It
cancel
warms
fest.
my
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
Just because it wouldn't work anymore, but it's just because of
funny how
that. It's
things
just so
change.
good.
Yeah.
So to finish that topic, I agree with you 100%, but I do think that programming probably plays a bigger role than people think at the middle level of the sport. I've seen so many people get burnt out, hurt, tweaked, end
What
up
are you
quitting the
defining as
sport.
the middle level?
Like, let's just say those that are like in between, like close to
Quarterfinal.
quarterfinals to close to semifinal range. Like, I know that's technically top
Like
10-ish percent.
I'm on the bubble of breaking into quarterfinals.
all the way through the bubble.
All the way
of
through the
semifinal.
bubble
Okay,
of
so big
semifinals.
range.
Yeah, so it's like 90th to 99th percentile.
Right.
Why does it matter more there?
I agree.
Those people usually, it seems that when they come to us, are very overtrained, usually tweaked, have issues like we talked about shoulders or knees or hips or whatever it may be, and they lose their passion. Like we were talking about passion earlier. Like people come into this because they love the aspect of being able to compete or just do something that they've never been able to do, but they don't have good instruction on the gymnastics or the lifts, and so then there's so much more risk. Whereas these talented individuals, like Travis, can just go and pick anything up he wants now, and like he's doing bar pullovers for the first time in probably a couple months, or maybe more.
Years, because he doesn't want to do them, and then they came out at the games, and I was like, now you got to learn.
But this morning he's doing like 20 in a row.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like in one day. But if you took I don't want to say average person, but just someone that's doing a class or someone that's maybe even following a program that hasn't tried that before, it's going to take much longer. So if they don't have good instruction, they'll just run themselves into the ground, or they start to do it and they can get a couple and then all of a sudden they hurt themselves.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, but I thought it was more for at the highest level.
It was. I just was going to the other side of the coin there.
The other reason for that group is, generally speaking, they have a huge hole. So it's like you want to be a balanced athlete, but relative to your fitness, let's say your engine and your cardio is a 9 and your skills and your gymnastics are a 9, but you only back squat 300 pounds and you only snatch 135 pounds as a guy, you're so unbalanced in your fitness that you need a program design that is unbalanced to balance your fitness.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So it's like, well, if you're on a well-rounded program and you're not a well-rounded athlete, you're getting shitty training because you're not well-rounded. So I think that's why programming really matters for that level, is because you need a comprehensive evaluation of like, well, this is what you need to be able to do. And then once you know what you need to be able to do, you need to hyper-focus until you bring up your skill set.
Right.
Whereas it seems like a lot of the other training programs are just very CrossFit-y. And not that that's bad, but...
Well, if you're good at everything, then it's a good place to be.
Once you're elite, then it's almost like this weird, like, bell curve where in the beginning you kind of got to do everything and you just got to kind of stay well-rounded, and then you start to develop and your natural tendencies take over. So like strong people keep getting stronger, enduring people keep getting enduring. The 1% of elites, so 0.001%, they just keep getting better at everything all the time without having to change. But at some point, most people are like, wow, I can snatch 300 pounds right now, but I can't row a 2K under 7 minutes. And it's like, okay, well now you need to do way less strength work, way more endurance work, and you need to build your engine if you want to compete.
And then you got to fight your mentality that's going to want to still do all that other shit.
Yeah, because you're good at it.
Which is harder than getting the 7K.
Yeah,
the 7 minute.
Yeah. So that's where I think
Totally.
coaching really, really, really matters. And I think
that's the fun coaching though.
Well, I think it's also becoming our niche. Right?
Yeah,
like our
that's true.
intermediate path, our RX path, and we have all these skill programs as we're trying to learn how to help take those people from that 90th percentile and try to give them the competitive edge, to give them a chance. Even if you do everything right, you still might not be good enough talent-wise, but at least you have a chance. If you're doing 30% of your volume in endurance and 30% in strength and 30% in random metcons, but you're already 90th percentile in metcons, it's like, all right, well, this is 30% of your time is wasted. You'd be better off resting and eating until you're snatching enough.
Look, we're just going to get you out of the open so you can get into quarterfinals, and you're going to look good enough in quarterfinals that you can get your social media clip and post it to your Instagram and call it a season.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you
Tag
do it
us.
for the love of the game. That's what it is.
What was your rapid fires?
You have rapid fires?
No. I was going to ask him about the athletes that he thought did really well and the athletes that didn't, but we covered most of that. So. Okay. Unless you want to.
I think I should give a shout out also to everybody that competed.
Oh, we didn't talk about the team,
The
though.
team, yeah. I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about the team, partially
All right,
because
so fuck
of the
'em.
disconnection.
Fuck you, team. No, I had fun watching them.
Yeah,
And
I
those
did-
people are crazy, and actually watching them this week or being there that week made me like them even more. They're just a
It turns
crazy little bunch
It's
of
an
people.
interesting group, right?
Yeah,
It
it's
really
super
is.
interesting.
It really is. I feel like Tanner and Jordan should have a reality
Reality
TV
show.
It'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
With
Can we
Needleman
just-
too.
Yeah, that's true. Needleman doesn't.
He's like the in between. He has
Hey,
to. Like,
he said he's
manage
going
the
to do
two.
our ruck challenge.
Oh, is he?
Is he?
Yeah.
He's
Heck yeah,
also
I'm excited.
gonna coach me.
I'm gonna miss that
Really?
guy
in
being
dancing.
here.
Nice. Oh, yeah, he's a great dancer.
Yeah, he's a
Can he really spin on his head?
yeah.
Oh,
That's a real thing?
Yeah, he was
That's
a break
awesome.
dancer.
Yeah.
He also, both of his parents, I think, are theatrical people. He said he did all sorts of dance. So that was his sport growing up.
That
And
makes
I was
sense.
like, wow. And then I told him that he should have ridden a bike in between.
I think
'cause-
you're too big to break dance.
Hey, shout out for him for doing good on the bike. He was very nervous about it, and then put it together there.
He
I
did
was
bike a
impressed
lot
with that.
here.
Yeah.
I saw him doing it.
Yeah, he would just take the bike from that back
Yep,
room
and
and
he
go
would go
out and back, do
Good
circle
for him.
drills.
I mean, that's the point, right? You fix the things that are weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Hannah, I mean, it was on the live stream. She had like a heat event. I don't know all the details. I do know she was going into medical and they didn't
She
finish
passed
the
out.
event.
Mike carried her. Tanner carried her. Jordan, I don't know why you didn't step up to the plate and do your half.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess they came over and they tried to put her down and she fell. Like she couldn't hold herself up. So medical took her. And that workout had no time cap. So we thought that was actually going to be the end of their weekend. They ended up talking to Boz. It wasn't super clear, but they said, we're going to let you keep competing unless you hear from us. And we never heard anything. So they just kept competing.
And we're going to show up for the next heat.
Which I thought was super impressive because I've seen people go through like heat stroke type events. And I've had heat exposure issues from cutting weight in a sauna, never while I was working out, but just that uncontrollable heart rate response and your body shutting down and you're like vision tunneling and you forgetting things that happen. It's quite scary and it leaves an impact for a couple days. Like until your body rehydrates and gets back into a normal state, it's pretty messed up. And she competed on that. So she earned my respect a little bit. Just the fact that, you know, she had the support of the group and she went out and competed again was pretty impressive.
I agree. Awesome. You got
Final
anything else,
thoughts?
Chris?
Final thoughts.
There's a lot that goes into these weekends.
Yeah. Final thoughts is I'm exhausted. I feel like there's going to be maybe a baby complaining comment, but I honestly feel like one of the least stressful ways to participate in an event like that is actually as an athlete. Watching the support structures.
They're going to disagree.
Yeah, I know. They're going to be like, yeah, you do this. But from a
I said the same thing. I was like, I think I would have rather competed.
Yeah, not from I understand, like, I can't even do the things they're doing. But if you just made them like, okay, these are events that you can do and you can do these skills and you're going to just do 12 really hard workouts. And then in between those workouts, you're going to get rest. You're going to get rubbed down. You're going to have all your food prepared for you. You're going to chill. I honestly feel like I would take that stress rather than walking. So he said 20,000 steps. It had to be the same. Like you're walking out to the vent,
for sure.
back out in the heat. I forgot my food. I didn't want to eat because I was like stressed out. And those, like at the end of that, when I got home, I slept for like 13 hours back to back nights. And I was like,
insane.
Wow, I don't even feel like I was a human during that week. Like it's just a blur of an experience in terms of how much is happening. So next year, I'm going to be an athlete.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
It all starts back over again now.
I know.
Let's do it
Get ready
again.
for next year.
Yeah. I mean, we had Perrin and Bethany, and then she obviously was watching the team, and then we had Habdo keeping the did he only work on Alexis, or did he work on other people? I
No,
don't know.
he definitely worked on other people. He spent most of his time with Alexis, but I know Ant had messaged him for some work and got work done. The team got work done.
And Bethany actually did pretty good this year.
Yeah, she crushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was.
And I think she has like a documentary guy who followed her around, so there might be something. from
I
her.
know that they had footage. She's doing recaps, and there's like day one footage, day two footage. So there's already stuff coming out, but it would be interesting.
Is it on her Instagram?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd like to hear her story more told from her perspective because she's went through what she did, honestly, from what I talked to about Perrin was probably one of the most impressive things, just based on how little strength work, how adaptive they were to the training process, the pain that she was dealing with just on a regular basis and the mindset shift that she's had to be competitive in the sport. And then she's freaking crushing it, made all the cuts. She was in the top 10. I don't think she finished in the top 10, or did she?
Yeah, I don't know where her overall finish was, but it was, I mean, she was great all weekend.
Yeah, that was super impressive. And like, I remember in one of the last briefings, I was looking up and all the athletes were sitting on the stairs and Bethany was at the top of the stairs with her feet propped up against the wall, laying down. I was like, that's how I would be now.
Smart.
Yeah, just chilling.
And just to round it out too, it was cool to see Tom Miazga out there doing interviews.
I know. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Since he didn't get to, his division, I guess.
His division
wasn't
didn't
out
get to
there.
compete.
Sam
Yeah.
Para was out there. So, yeah, we had quite the crew. It's a lot to keep this thing going.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
Yes. Yeah. I guess my final thoughts would be like to all the people that came up and said thank you for podcasts, people were saying that they followed all the information during the open and to get through quarterfinals, people who have taken our courses, people cheering on for Alexis and wearing shirts.
Oh my gosh, that little girl, I forget her name, but there's like a little girl that I got to interview that's a huge Alexis fan, and she was awesome. I have footage of her somewhere
I can't wait
you
to
might
see
see
that
one day, but
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just would say thank you to those people. I think this year's games was hard emotionally in a weird way to watch the sport evolve and change and see some of the same things going on and wonder like, how sustainable is this? Where is it going? I think by the end of it, I was already at like a better emotional state, but through the beginning of it, there was a lot of uncertainty and unknowns and worry about what happened last year. But those conversations they made me more hopeful about the whole process and more hopeful that like, okay, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep being a voice of reason. We got to keep putting podcasts out. We got to keep connecting to people because it is making a difference. It is changing. It is like people in the back were having conversations with me saying they took the courses and put that information into their athletes' programs. So that was just a big positive reward for me. So I appreciate all you people, athletes. You guys are
Brannen, take us home.
Yeah.
Beat that.
No, do it.
Keep moving on.
Yeah.
All right.
Later. 2 hours. I got sweaty ears.